Gary.
They told me to do it harder. Please silence your phones, and I've asked Larry Jones to do the invocation today, and then we'll do the pledge, so please stand.
Our Father, we're grateful for today and for this time. We thank you for these who have joined us for this meeting tonight. Lord, we pray for strength, wisdom, and guidance, that the board makes the best decisions for the citizens of our great county. Again, we thank you for the opportunity to be here and participate in this great process. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we now call the meeting to order. We have one continuation, number 13. Mac, would you tell us about that, please?
Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am, Madam Chairman. This is a request to continue the Surf Song Estates project to our first meeting in July at this location on July 12th at 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. Okay, so we have a continuation of number 13. Now we'll move back to number 1, which is Sydney, would you?
Yes, ma'am. So I think all of our items tonight are quasi-judicial items. Anyone who anticipates testifying before the board on any matter, if you would please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give before this board will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So whenever you come before the board on any item, if you would just state and spell your last name and state that you've been sworn. And have any of the commissioners had any ex parte communications on any of the items?
I have.
I do.
Okay. Would any of those ex parte communications cause you to render anything but a fair and impartial decision?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
No.
Okay. Martha's Lane is the first one. Martha's Lane.
Yes, ma'am. This is as the first 6 of our items tonight continued from the June 14th BCC meeting. This is Martha's Lane Townhomes, a major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates with the future land use of neighborhood infill. It's located at the south end of Martha's Lane off of Allen Loop Drive, approximately a quarter mile north of County Road 30A. At this time, we would like to enter the staff report, which is in your package, into evidence.
Okay. So that, I guess we'll just have it Exhibit 1.
The applicant is here to present their project.
Okay, Dean, you can come up now. Dean or Dean's assistant.
Good afternoon. I am Rick Borst. That's B-O-R-S-T. I have been sworn in. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'd like to take just a few moments to address you with the progress and the summary of Martha's Lane Townhomes. The project went before the Planning Commission on April 14th with 19 townhome units. The project was approved, although it required reconfiguration due to the East Government easement. And Mr. Perry requested that Martha's Lane Road be paved out to Allen Loop Road. The project team reconfigured this project, and on May 10th presented to this board the reconfigured plan that had 17 townhomes containing 41 parking spaces. At our last hearing, the board made only one recommendation from Commissioner Meadows to increase the parking spaces in the development. The project team, in the spirit of cooperation, wanted to show our willingness to work with the commissioners, and we found a solution to achieve that additional parking. In order to achieve this, we had to remove 1 unit of density, which allowed more parking surface, taking the project from 17 units to 16 units. And while this was an impact of the project, it did allow us to have 1 additional surface parking space for each of the 16 units. The other item that we addressed, which I had sent to the commissioners a couple of weeks ago, was the available parking that is contained within the garage of each unit. The units are designed to have 4 vehicles parked within the garage. The parking plan that we show only utilizes 3 of those vehicle spaces. The 4th space is allocated strictly to storage, and that's from floor to ceiling height. So with those 3 additional cars that we have parked, it's approximately 285 square feet of storage that we still allow, roughly 13 feet by 22 feet. We also have kept the elevator option for the townhome, and that square footage was not included in the 285 square feet. We have an exhibit here, which I sent to you, that shows, again, a plan view of the 3 spaces of the vehicles where they're parked. This that is shaded in red is the storage area for each of the townhomes. The yellow represents the elevator option, which again was not included. So again, that is that roughly 285 square feet from floor to ceiling, still allowing ample parking for the 3 vehicles. So we are pleased to present this new plan this afternoon, which demonstrates the parking condition that now allows 64 spaces for the 16 townhome units, which is 4 spaces per unit. Additionally, as recommended by Mr. Perry on the Planning Commission, we are also paving Martha's Lane from our south boundary to Allen Loop Road. So I thank you for the opportunity to present the summary, and we respectfully request that the project meet with your approval this evening, as we have fulfilled both the recommendations from the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. At this point, I'd like to introduce Dean Burgess, our project engineer. Thank you very much.
May I ask a quick question?
Sir.
Could you run that number by me at 285 square feet?
285 square feet, correct, which is what is this shaded area here.
What's the dimensions on that?
Roughly 13 feet by 22.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dean, would you come up, please? And thank you for your cooperation and working with us.
My pleasure, ma'am.
We really appreciate that.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm the engineer of record and agent to the applicant on the project. Last name's Burgess, B-U-R-G-I-S. I think Rick did a good job of summarizing the project. If there are any specific questions, just to recap, y'all have obviously heard this just a month ago, but we have now gone down to 16 units on the project that on 2.45 acres. We do provide 64 parking spaces for the 16 units, which is double the required parking per code. And we still meet the 100-year storm, still meet our preservation requirements as outlined in the code. Any questions of the board, I'd be happy to answer.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, the only question I have, Dean, and we appreciate y'all working on this for more parking, because I think that's going to make the project even better. But people have asked me why, excuse me, why are you not using your side of the 33 feet for roadway and using the eastern side of the 33 feet?
Sure, I'd be happy to explain that.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Thanks.
If I may use this exhibit and approach. The adjacent to our property, there are 2 33-foot easements
Right.
that comprise Martha's Lane right-of-way.
Right.
To the north of our project, there is only 1 33-foot easement on the east side here. There's not a
Continue.
corresponding easement on the west side.
Okay.
If we were to try to center the road, we could, but the road would have to swing and jog down the center line of the right-of-way. If that's something that the board sees as desirable, I don't know that we'd have an objection to doing that. It just creates
Kind of a jog.
some awkward geometry in the road.
A jog. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the main comment that I got from some folks, but we'll listen to what they say and see if. But I appreciate you offering to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Would you raise your hand? Yes, ma'am, come on up. And you have been sworn.
I have been sworn, yes, and I'm Sherry Roberts, Roberts. I am the HOA manager for Calypso Point, which is the neighborhood that adjoins this new development. I do have a couple questions. My first two questions have to do with Martha's Lane. I know that it was stipulated at the Planning Commission meeting that Martha's Lane be paved. At that time, we thought that was the entire Martha's Lane should be paved, and currently it's drawn on the plans as gravel. So my question is, if it's approved tonight, can they just gravel it, or does it need to be paved? Does the entire road need to be paved? My second question, and I brought this up several times, I really don't understand why Martha's Lane has to be 100% on the Calypso Point side of that right-of-way. At the last meeting, I was told that it was drawn there because that was where the road is now. But I brought some pictures of actually what really is there right now. It's that little sandy pass. There's two pictures. One of them shows the relationship to the homes at Calypso Point. The other is just more of a close-up of that sandy little path.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but would you like those to become exhibits in the record?
Yes, that'd be fine. Thank you.
So objectors exhibit 1.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, that sandy path has no electrical lines on it, no sewer lines, no anything. And as stated in prior meetings, there's a 66-foot easement allowed for that road. When the Planning Commission had denied that abandonment that was originally asked for, we were requested, and they requested. We thought Martha's Lane would be moved to the center of that easement, but it's still on our side. And if they were to move it to the middle, it would allow Calypso Point homeowners and the development an equal buffer of 24 feet each. With that road very near our homeowners' backyards, which is shown in that picture, it would seem to me that by moving it to the middle of the right-of-way, it would just make sense and be fair to both neighborhoods, especially since the development is really the only one using that road. So we're taking on Calypso Point land, and it's being used just by them. And also, if the county wanted to do something with Martha's Lane after the fact, it would give an equal amount of space on both sides of that road for bike paths, pedestrian walkways, whatever the future would hold, which at this point we don't know. So I'm asking that you please consider requiring them to put the road in the center of that easement. Also, I wanted to clear something up from the last meeting regarding comparisons to other neighborhoods. At that meeting, it was said that over half the homes in Calypso Point are used as rentals, and that's really not the case. We have 12 homes in our neighborhood that rent. We have 32 total. 3 of those homes are long-term rentals. We have 9 that are vacation rentals. So that's really not half of our homes. And I was also asked to just bring up parking by several of the other neighbors that could not come this evening. And I was thinking that at the last Board of Commissioners meeting, they discussed driveway parking as an option, and I really didn't see any driveway parking on the plans. And, I'm just wondering how effective the additional parking space is going to be under the homes, since guests or maids or handymen or whatever really won't be able to get to that parking because there's a garage door in the way. Anyway, thank you, and I thank you very much for letting me speak, and please consider putting the road in the center of the easement. Thank you.
Come on up, sir. State your name and
Thank you.
you've
I'm
been
Billy
sworn.
Roberts, and I have been sworn. Okay. I'm on the board of directors at Calypso Point, and I'm here to support the position that was presented by Sherry Roberts, who is our association manager. Normally, our manager handles these things with the board, but our board of directors felt like it would be beneficial if someone from our board spoke to support her. At the previous hearing on this matter, our association manager presented a clear case that the developer was taking all of the Calypso Point easement from Martha's Lane and using none of his own to develop the road. The developer claimed he was just following the existing road, but there actually is no existing road. There's an old gravel road that actually turns into a sandy trail. During our presentation at that meeting, Commissioner Meadows said it looked like the proposed road would almost be in the backyard of the homes of Calypso Point, which our association manager confirmed was true. After hearing that concern and others relating to the parking and density, the commissioners chose to deny this project. Later in the meeting, the commissioners decided to reconsider that decision and asked the developer to return with another plan that addressed parking issues. No mention was made by the commissioners about the concern of Calypso Point losing all of its easement. Our question to you is this: why would you not have at least addressed our issue when you ordered the plans to be redrawn? What possible reason could there be to allow the developer to use all of our easement and none of his own when our homeowners will be adversely affected? We're asking that you please correct this on behalf of our homeowners and make this developer use an equal portion of his easement, since the development is totally for his benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir, come on up. State your name.
My name is Michael Klein, and I've been sworn in. I attended the Planning Commission meeting back in April and the first Board of Commissioners meeting back in May. And at that time, it was stated to us by the applicant that a 66-foot right-of-way existed from Allen Loop Road down to 30A. Tonight, he said that on the northern part, his northern property line to Allen Loop Road, there only exists a 33-foot right-of-way. I asked on the original Planning Commission meeting that given the density of this proposal and its access through an 8 single-family subdivision property, that the access ought to come off of 38 and not through that 8-unit subdivision north of his property from Allen Loop Road. Tonight, I'm stunned to find out that there is only a 33-foot right-of-way north of his property. It's not even a wide enough right-of-way to have a developed road. That further, to me, illustrates that the access to this property ought to come from 38 and not from Allen Loop Road. So I'd like to ask you to reconsider how you get to this property. And if there is not a 66 or a 50-foot right-of-way that exists from Allen Loop to his northern property line, then maybe his access should not come from Allen Loop and should come from 30A, where there is a 66-foot right-of-way. At the last at the last Board of Commissioners meeting, the board addressed parking, and I attended that meeting, and I didn't hear them say they wanted more parking. I heard them say they wanted the applicant to look at providing driveway parking. And I don't see any driveway parking provided on this plan. He has increased his parking, but if parking is only accessible to the occupants of the unit, then parking becomes troublesome over a longer period of time. To me, that parking issue of providing parking in a driveway situation, these are townhomes. They are single-family attached type. And when people can't park in driveways, even though there's other sites, parking sites available, short-term service vehicles and whatnot don't walk to those spots and park their car and walk to a unit. They tend to park wherever they want to. So again, I like to look at how they could address parking by providing driveway parking. He's got the base unit of these townhouses is 1,500 square feet on 3 levels. That's 4,500 square feet. He can easily provide parking, driveway parking, by not necessarily building out the entire lower level. and still provide additional parking, driveway-type parking, and accommodate it in that fashion. Also, this is the last property that uses Martha's Lane as access. So I think the final development for how Martha's Lane is going to be built out, and if and when there's going to be any bike paths, ought to be considered and looked at. And right now, there are no connections from this property or from the immediate neighborhood that currently uses Martha's Lane to get to the beach on 30A. And I'd like to see some type of suggestion on how that current pedestrian traffic would use that road and get to 30A. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Mr. Fuquay.
Alan Ficara, and I've been sworn. I saw this at the Planning Commission meeting, and I have not had a chance to view what has changed since then. Since I couldn't see what was changed, could somebody point out to me how it's different now than before?
Dean, could you do that, please?
From the Planning Commission, we have added, the original plan only had 9 surface parking spaces. We've now got 16 spaces. We've reduced 1 unit from 17 down to 16 units. So there's 1 surface parking space for each unit, and then each unit has 3 parking spaces that we called out. You actually could have 4 parking spaces. We have accounted for, in not showing that 4th space, the need for some amount of storage in the garage.
May I ask, what is the distance from building to building where the buildings face each other?
The buildings facing each other.
Right there.
Across.
What is that distance?
Roughly 33 feet.
33 feet. And the road width is how wide?
21 feet, and 24 where there's parking.
And is there a sidewalk in front of the building?
There is.
All right, so basically, if somebody was to come and visit one of the townhomes and their garage was not open, there's nobody, they couldn't park in front of the building, and that's where people are going to tend to want to park if they're going to visit somebody in a particular unit. If they're coming to an address and they nobody is going to be able to pull up in front of it. The parking that's there may or may not be available, and that when people have their garages closed, that actual parking, if there's not 3 cars in there, it's still not available to be used. When that garage is closed, and you and I both know there's a lot of people, when they have a garage, they fill it up. What's to say that they couldn't just fill that garage up and they start using the rest of the parking places for their cars, and now we still have another parking problem because they filled the garage up. I think Michael's comments earlier about the fact of having a closed garage for parking, counting towards parking. In this respect, with there's no street parking available, most subdivisions will have room off the side of the road where you can actually park. This doesn't have that. You're still going to wind up with a parking problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mac, we don't have that plan in our file. I have the old plan. We don't have that one that shows all the new parking. It's not in here.
It's not in the inserts that we received.
Pardon me?
It's not in the inserts that we received for this meeting.
Okay, did y'all submit this plan, Dean? Did y'all
Yes, we
resubmit?
did. We submitted it roughly 1 week after the last meeting that we had.
Okay.
Mac, I've got the old ones also.
Well, while they're doing that, can I ask Dean a couple questions?
Sure,
Can
go
I ask him? Dean, what is, y'all did agree to realign this road?
Yes, there was a lot of discussion about that, and hopefully we were clear that if it's the board's wish for us to realign that road, we'd be happy to put it down the center of the easement.
Down the center of the easement.
Yes,
Let
ma'am.
me ask you this. What is south of, is there anything south of here that y'all could get to that would?
South of our property, and actually adjacent to our property currently is, as they said, a sand trail. And that's how people access the beach. It's kind of a sand trail through the woods. It's kind of neat.
Okay.
It's our intent to maintain that for access down the beach. That was one of the questions, is to maintain that access, and if possible, we improve it. I don't think we want to go to anything more than, kind of the trail through the woods that's there now.
Yeah. What about the man's suggestion that you enter from 30A? Is there any way to enter from 30A?
Well, there's a significant grade incline to the property from 30A. And also, it's from a developer's perspective, we had that discussion. I think we talked about this last meeting as well. It wasn't our desire to come from 30A. We felt as though it would complete a thoroughfare, to Thompson Road and up to Highway 98. So it really wasn't, our desire to do that.
Okay.
All right. Some of the other points that I'd like to respond to regarding parking, I wanted to be clear that we do have surface parking. This is a small parcel, and we've done our best to centrally locate the parking on the property. There's spaces down here by the pool. There's spaces here by these three sets of units, and at the entry. If a visitor comes, you've got one space per unit for a visitor. Even if all units have a visitor, they'll all have a parking space, a surface parking space for them. If the visitor's there for the weekend, they can use the garage. And the intent of the development was to keep a clean streetscape and dedicated parking rather than parking in front of the units. We actually want to deter cars sitting out in front of the units. That's been a problem in some subdivisions. So that was part of our design plan here. If there was any other questions, I think we've covered all the topics that were presented.
Yeah, that's all the questions.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? Okay.
The staff report in your packet was reviewed or prepared based on a review of the plan that we see up here. It is not the insert in your book. That is the previous one that we had that you asked to be updated.
Okay.
But the report that's in the book was a review of this plan with the revised parking.
Okay.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Any other questions before we call for a vote? Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve it with the staff's conditions and the plan that's presented that they spoke of and that the staff comments apply to, with the one other condition that they realign the road down the center line of the easement.
We have a motion, second. Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. Okay. The next project would be Holiday Beachside Center.
Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department, and I have been sworn.
Okay, wait, if you'll wait just a minute, let him clear out. Okay, I believe we can go ahead now.
Yes, ma'am. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department, and I have been sworn. This is a major development order application submitted by Dean Burgess requesting approval to develop an 18,000 square foot shopping center on approximately 1.909 acres with future land use and neighborhood infill. At this time, I'd like to request that the staff report be entered into evidence.
Okay, so staff exhibit 1.
The agent is here and available to present the project.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. Again, for the record, Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. I'm the engineer of record and agent to the applicant for the Holiday Beachside Center. My name is spelled Burgis, and I have been sworn. Did I hit them all?
Yes.
Okay. The Holiday Beachside Center, you may also remember, was heard by this board last month. There were some comments that the board had for us to address. Those were to take a look at our entrances, particularly on the southern end of the property, and determine if Public Works had some input on those, and we have done that. The second item was to review our lighting, site lighting and lighting in the windows. Regarding the entrances, we met with Public Works, and in the course of our discussions, eliminated the southeastern access, which I think was the most problematic access. It was near the stop sign here, and admittedly would create some congestion in this area.
Okay, once again, we don't have that plan. I'm sorry. We don't have that plan, but go ahead, Dean. We've got, we have the plan that shows the, that's why I kept thinking, I thought that, you know, I knew y'all were going to change it, and I just didn't see it.
The second change that we made, and I'd be happy to pass this around to the board. I also have a thumb drive I can put it on the display.
Yeah, would you do that?
Sure.
Would you mind? Because it's just really hard to see.
And Mr. Burgess, let me address one thing too, because I brought up specifically the fact that that southern entrance, which is still on there,
Should be the third one.
is, you've got both a eastbound, a left turn lane in front of the facility, and that's going to cross where you've got, just after you've got a stop sign, and you've got a bicycle multi-use path also that's being crossed by that. And my question last time is, why wouldn't you just go around onto Holiday to come in, as opposed to cutting across a line of traffic that's just come through a stop sign and also cutting across a bicycle pedestrian path?
To address those questions and remedy that issue, what we've done is made this a right-in only turn. So in the event somebody's traveling here, they get through the stop sign and realize here's where they want to be. They can come in. There's no re-entry onto Scenic 98 without coming out on Holiday Road and directing you to that stop sign.
How do you handle eastbound traffic on Scenic Gulf Drive from turning in there?
The geometry of the turn is directed in such a way that they cannot enter there, as well as signage to prevent entry into there. As you can see, the radii of the turn only point in the western direction. I'm sorry, eastern direction.
Yeah. How are you going to handle that crossing with the bike path?
There would be a yield to pedestrians sign there. Basically, that's encountered up and down 38 with the multi-use path.
Okay. Could you put a could you stripe it so that the bikers know? Because most of the time, you know, the bikers aren't paying attention. Could you stripe that section so that, you know, they know that there is a, you know,
That crossing would be diagonally door striped. Sure.
I'm concerned that if you've got a westbound traveling biker who's not going to see a car coming in from behind him or her, that this is where part of the conflict would come in. Joggers, bicyclists, pedestrians too, which is why it seemed that the entrance on Holiday Road was better fitted to taking all of the entry of the cars for that, as opposed to going in or out onto Scenic Gulf Drive.
Right. Well, One, the owner wants to maintain an access onto County Road 2378. Secondly, in the event that intersection, as I said, gets missed, this does allow the opportunity to do that without causing the point that you brought up, where you have somebody trying to, that's eastbound, trying to turn in. It eliminates that concern, which I think is the element that's dangerous there.
Okay, so please bear with me. So if you're traveling eastbound, you've got to go to Holiday Road. You've got to go to the stop sign, turn left, and then where are they going to come in?
They would come in the large entrance right under the word Holiday. There's a two-way access in and out.
And Dean, the way it's designed, that you're showing all the exit traffic would exit at that point?
All exiting traffic would go on to Holiday or Cross Creek Road to the north side. No exiting traffic would go on to Scenic 98.
And Dean, is the road, call it the S road, the intersection, is that because the developer wants to have retail access right off of that road, right into their center?
Yes, from a retail perspective, the owner is adamant and convinced that he's got to have some access off of the scenic highway. And he wanted to maintain that, and I think this meets that requirement or that desire while maintaining safety.
Okay.
I have the architect, Lee Goodson, here to elaborate on the lighting and explain some of the lighting design aspects that we have. One thing I'd like to touch on that we didn't talk about last meeting, the building lighting, basically to the immediate east of the building, is the condominium and predominantly the condominium parking lot next to us. The single family starts at this driveway to the north. So all of the single family development is located north of our building and actually across from our parking lot rather than the building. There was quite a bit of discussion about the building lighting and it interfering with the single family homes. And the fact of the matter is those single family homes are north of that lighting.
Yeah, stay right there, Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah, that aerial illustrates it quite nicely.
What's that in front of the parking lot to the south of it? What is that?
That is the condominium
Those-
building itself.
Okay, those are the condominiums.
Yes.
Okay, and then the single family. Okay.
Lee, if you wanted to address the board about lighting?
My name is Lee Goodson. I have been sworn. I'm the architect of record on the project, and so I'm here to talk about the lighting. And we have I brought some cut sheets and also some actual pictures for you to see the kind of lighting that we're talking about using. I'd like to pass these around. This is sort of a handheld version of the lights that y'all can try out. And just to explain how this lighting works. These are LED lights. They're no longer using those big giant halogen lights that you see, stadium lights and all those kinds of things. So the light is extremely controlled. It's at a pinhead type of control point. And each one of those little light fixtures, you push the button on the back of it to see.
Yeah.
There you go. Each one of these little nodules that you see in these fixtures is one of these lights that shines out. And there's a myriad of different ways that they have now to control the light escaping the site, because one of the concerns was light leaving the site. And they either put it right on the end of the light itself, They can put a little cup on the end of it that only lets light out the front. It even has a little sleeve that goes underneath it, so the light couldn't even shine down if you just wanted it to shine straight out. Or you can still use the traditional force finders that you see that go above and around the lights. Those options are still available. But when you put these little control cups on top of each one of those light fixtures, that's each one of those pin lights, it dramatically controls where the light goes, because you can cut those to go exactly where the light needs to be displayed out. But we also have louvers that can be put on these lights to control that. Right now, we have specified the little cups and also the horse liners on this, because we just want to make doggone sure that none of the light leaves the site and none of it can be visible for the turtles from the south of us. In terms of the window lights, we're just now finishing a store in Orange Beach, and this is a lighting study of the store at night. This is a night shot. Those are the lights shining on the store, and you can see can't see any of the spotlights. You can't see any of the lights inside the store. You can't even see the parking lot lights. It's just the illumination on the building is all you see. And that's the same lighting type of scheme that we're using on this store. So this is quite literally a nighttime shot. And so when you see the windows, you're only going to see the glow from the actual display itself. It's not going to be any iridescent lighting leaving the site or leaving the store. So I hope that makes you feel a little bit better about how we're controlling the light on this store. Go ahead. I can see a question.
Is this the same store model and everything as the one?
No, this is the one in Orange Beach. It's a totally different shape, but it still is the same lighting designer, and it's the same lighting type of scheme that we have.
And but not the same colors, correct?
Not the same colors or the shapes. They're different on this store.
Okay.
But I did kind of give you an idea. I took those colors and put them on our elevation just so you can see, what that would look like, just so you can get a grasp of what this looks like with that. So, you can take that lighting study and understand how that would affect the store. But, we're still stepping in and out. We're breaking it down into 20-foot modules, and we're varying the heights of the parapets so that it doesn't look like a flat warehouse. And, we'll be playing with the different colors. But you saw before the color scheme that we had presented, which was that color scheme, I believe. And again, this was an earlier scheme, but it's got the same color scheme on it.
So that's your color scheme?
Well, we haven't decided on the final color scheme yet.
Okay.
Again, we were dealing with the lighting issues and the traffic issues. I didn't know we had to bring in the final color scheme.
Well, the only reason I asked that is because the light on those colors, they almost look like neon. It almost looks like a neon light show.
Those particular lights, that particular lighting study is, those colors are bright. And those aren't the particular colors that we're planning on this store. That was in Orange Beach.
And that was the only thing I was referring to, is that more subtle colors might not look like neon at night.
This was the scheme we had earlier. We had this, the more sand colors and the yellows.
Yeah, that's what I remembered. Yeah.
That's the color we had on the previous scheme we presented.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments from the board?
And that's really the plan on this, is not
that,
not the Orange Beach store.
Now, when you talk about those little lights, are those lights mounted on poles? Are they?
If pull that, no, that's the light itself.
Yeah.
But in that perspective, it shows the lights mounted on a pole. Can we go back to the night study? There you go. You see those little lights on the inside of the pole right there?
Okay, that's the lights.
Those
Okay.
are the actual floodlights.
Okay.
With the blinders on them.
Okay. And what are your hours of operation, did you say again?
This store right now is operating from 10 a.m. to midnight.
And when do the lights go down or off? When do the bright lights go off? At closing would be midnight?
Generally, they're on timers.
Be midnight, okay. And the parking lot lights go off at midnight?
Well, they don't all go off. There's still some amount of housekeeping lighting that needs to be in place so that the police can see in the store.
Okay.
And there's some certain amount of lighting in the parking lot for safety reasons. You have to keep a certain lumen level in the parking lot, but it won't be nearly this bright. It'll just be enough for safety lighting. Generally, you go from, the 35-foot candles or whatever you might have during the day. Well, here you're going to have like a foot candle and a half at night when it's on security lighting. So it's dramatically less light than you would have, say, for instance, in daytime.
Now, do these have the second floor display windows? Does this have that?
These do. It's just that we don't have a horizontal interruption in this store. This store, they're full height. In other words, in this design, we have a lower level store, and then we have an upper level display area. And we have that interrupted with these awnings and horizontal elements. We have less glass on the store here than we do on the store in Orange Beach. In Orange Beach,
Right.
those pieces of glass
Yeah.
are 19 feet tall. And
Oh,
they go
okay,
all the
and
way
then
up.
these are more like a window and then an awning and
Right.
then a
That's right.
display window up top.
That's
Okay.
right. And there's less openings in this facade and more articulation on the exterior of the building to give it more character than there is on the one in Orange Beach, which is just one big giant glass opening.
Okay.
Again, that glass goes up to 22 feet above the ground.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have any questions from the audience? Anybody like to speak to this project? Yes, sir, come on up.
My name is Matthew Imperial. I am P-E-R-I-A-L. I have not been sworn in.
Oh, okay. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give before this board will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I'm here. I tested at the May meeting of the BCC in regards to this major development project on behalf of Emerald Waters Village, which is the residential neighborhood directly to the north east of the proposed development. Also, like you, we did not see any changes to the plans, as the ones that were uploaded to the site showed no changes, including to the area. So we've not had a time to really digest any other major changes in regards to the driving situation or the entrances and such. I'd like to ask, were there any changes to the planting height of the perimeter trees, Mr. Burgess, as discussed at the May meeting? You all had agreed verbally to address increasing the planting height of those at that meeting, but I didn't see any change on the landscape plan.
We would agree to increase the height of those plantings in accordance with what we agreed to at the last meeting.
Okay, again, the landscape plan, we had requested as a neighborhood to increase the planting height of the canopy trees around the entire perimeter of the property. The landscape plan showed a 6-foot initial planting height. We requested a planting height somewhere between 12 to 15 feet initially for the perimeter. Again, the landscape plans are uploaded in there, did not show any change to us.
What did y'all agree on for the tree height?
We had
Dean,
requested 12
Dean,
to 15.
Did y'all agree on something, Dean?
We had agreed to the 10 to 12 foot height trees, and that would be along the parking area, which borders the residential property, right where he's showing the
Okay,
cursor.
so the section on South Holiday just in front of the parking?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
what we're talking- Okay. Is that what y'all?
That'd be agreeable to us. I think we had mentioned somewhere between 12 to 15 is what we had said. I mean, I think it's anything that seems reasonable.
That's reasonable, sure.
Okay. Again, we had not seen any changes on the landscape plans. The other issue that we had brought up was child safety. This is in fact a Walton County Public School pickup and drop-off point. We still saw no public comment from the Walton County Public School District. That was discussed at the last meeting as far as pursuing safety signs, school zones, speed zones, et cetera, and perhaps some other crosswalks with the addition of the sidewalk. I've not seen any change as a neighborhood addressing that particular issue. The board agreed to that was a valid issue. The developer, discussed that they would interface with Public Works, but again, we've seen no no annotation that that particular issue has been addressed at this point. Okay. The other item on the issue of the second-story windows, which we were just discussing, and the lighting, I think our major objection continues to be the height at which these windows exist at. Regardless of whether or not the actual light source is visible, there's still indirect light, operating from 11 a.m. until midnight. We recognize that it may not be directly across from the residential neighborhood, but due to the height of this, they're essentially taking, from what we can tell, and you all had kind of acknowledged it last time, the existing Alvin's Island that's in Miramar Beach across from the outlets. It looks very similar to that. The height of those windows look to be very similar. Again, this exists on Highway 98, a 6-lane highway, and we do not feel that the windows at that particular height and the type of advertisements are going is compatible with the area, especially with the concerns regarding lights. Our feeling as a neighborhood is that why chance having interference with wildlife or with residents when we have plenty of lower level windows? An example, the Orange Beach development that was just brought up. We know what's being sold at this store. We don't feel like we need advertisement at the 30 to 40 foot level, similar to this area of Alvin's Island. So that continues to be a concern for us. The board had mentioned considering perhaps a redesign is what was discussed at the last BCC, and again, we've not seen that. We understand the care that's being taken in ejecting light, but still continues to be a concern for Emerald Waters Village at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Dean?
Sure. I'd like to respond to his comments. I apologize about the updated plans. Of course, the plans were turned into planning department, and they did not get into your packets. I hope that the screens are helpful in conveying the new plans. With regard to child safety, our comment at the last meeting remains. If there's any coordination that needs to be done with Public Works, I understand there is a new sidewalk that's planned on Holiday Road. It will be on the east side. On the east side, the opposite side of the road from us. We are tying into the existing sidewalk across Holiday Road. Any school safety signs or anything of that sort that would need to be placed within the easement on our property, we have no objection to. And we'd certainly want to see it as safe as possible for the school kids. With regard to the second-story window, I would like to offer that there's currently the exact same type of retail operation going on out of this location. I can confirm to you and assert to you that our lighting will be far better than the stadium-type lights that are out there. The amount of spillover light that's occurring now, there's no doubt in my mind it will be considerably, or is considerably more than what they'll experience with the future development that we're proposing. If there are any further questions or discussion, I'd be happy to accommodate.
That is an unmodified picture from the last time? Because I think when this is going back to the entryway, it would appear that it's accommodating both eastbound and westbound scenic Gulf Drive traffic to come in.
Yes, the radius, you're correct, on the west side, the lower radius has been removed, so it is only a right-hand turning movement.
This is our architectural drawing, and it's a little behind Dean's new driveway drawing. This is one we did to show the sidewalks and all that. And the sidewalks along the western boundary of Holiday Road are all sidewalks that we've added through the process that weren't there previously.
Well, I asked because the previous set of drawings, which we got the old ones, showed the other entryway on Holiday Road, which has now been eliminated on this, and on that, and the one we just talked about there, which would appear to show, it eliminated that other one as well, but.
This is the new driveway right here.
The record drawing is what's on the screen here. And that is what we're proposing and seeking approval on. The geometry shown on the architectural site plan was prior to making that write-in only change.
But again, I don't think these drawings up to speed with us on the sidewalks. We've added sidewalks on that other sketch we showed you. We've added sidewalks around the fountain area on both sides of the Century Drive. And it's not, see, we've added those yellow, you see those sidewalks on either side of the Century Drive?
Yeah.
We've actually added sidewalks that still need to be upgraded onto the Silver Dome as well. So we've added a considerable amount of sidewalks.
How does the sidewalk on the south side tie in with the existing multi-use path?
On that yellow line that you see running along the edge of the driveway,
Yeah.
it's a 5-foot sidewalk which comes in and ties into the 8-foot. And that diagonal line you see is the bike path.
So that's already there.
That's all right.
So that's not a new sidewalk.
It's not a new sidewalk. We're probably going to resurface the bike path in front of our store, because during construction, if it gets damaged, we're going to resurface.
So is it going to be 5 feet wide?
The bike path is 8.
Right.
And the other sidewalks are 5, if I understand.
So are y'all going to match the 8
Yes,
foot? Okay, okay.
On the multi-use path.
On the multi-use path.
Correct.
Now, all the green, is that going to be actually grass?
Landscape. Well, it's trees and bushes, and it's Dean's landscape plan, and then we're also going to bump up the size of the trees.
Right, but I mean, what kind of ground, is that, I'm just trying to figure out, is that going to all be green, or is it just going to be mulch, or?
We have the trees shown here on this plan. You can see all the trees that they planted there, where we see those trees.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, I believe, Dean, you're using that as limited swale, so it'd be grass, right?
It will, below the landscaping and ground cover
Right.
will be grass.
Okay, and then I noticed you have a fountain out front, right there?
Correct.
Okay, and then you have, I think, is that your school cross, is that your sidewalk crossing up there on South Holiday? Is that thing right there?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what it is?
That
Okay.
is our crossing,
Okay.
tying into the sidewalk across the street.
And
Okay.
that would be an ideal place to put a school waiting sign there. But we have no objection to having a lower speed limit and cooperating on the school zone.
Okay. We've been working on a lot of different plans out on Holiday Road for like crossings, how to designate bike crossings, how to designate sidewalk crossings, and where the best place to put them is. Would y'all be able to work with Chance and our Public Works Department to kind of make all that consistent?
Sure.
So
yeah,
that,
if there was a better or a more favorable place where they wanted to see that crosswalk, absolutely.
Yeah, there may be. They may not want it right at that intersection of those two roads.
Right.
And you've got some sidewalk, just the markings need to reflect what we're doing out there as well. So Chance and those guys are working on that. So if y'all could coordinate with them on all your bike path crossings and sidewalk crossings with driveways.
All right.
It's really just signage and I think striping and things like that, but we want to try to make all that consistent. You said that your window, the second story windows are what, 40 feet? 40 foot height?
Have you addressed those?
Are they?
No, the other one. The one with the colors, there you go.
Yeah,
The top of that parapet,
Yeah.
the long horizontal one between the different structures,
Yeah.
which is basically the top of the parapet for the roof,
Yeah.
is 29 feet off the ground.
Oh, okay. And so the windows, so the windows, the display windows on the, that are actually what we were calling the second floor are actually
More like 22. to the
22
top of the
feet
roof.
high.
Right. Which is
Okay.
the same height as they are in that other store.
Okay.
But they're dramatically more
Right.
commercial looking if they're full height glass versus
Right.
breaking them up into smaller pieces.
Right, exactly. Okay. Okay. Let's see if I have any other questions. Let's see. Or do y'all plan on, somebody said y'all piped music outside into the parking lot from like all day into the night?
We have at the front entrance, what these guys have normally done when they don't have automatic doors is they prop the doors open. And when they prop the doors open, there are speakers right as you come in, and I'm sure that is spilling out of the store. These stores, these new stores, all have automatic electric doors on them.
Yeah.
So they'll be closed instead of somebody going through the door.
Okay, so there'll be no piping of the music to the outside?
There is music inside.
Inside, but it won't be piped outside?
We're not signing.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? No, I think. I don't have any other questions. Do you have any other questions?
Okay, what's the pleasure?
Bill is talking to himself. I'm just kidding. I'll make a motion to approve with the staff's recommendations plus the increase in the height of the trees along the parking lot in Holiday Road from 6 feet to, you said 10 to 12 feet? 10 to 15 feet. Also coordinate with Public Works bike path crossing and striping and signage. And and coordinate with the school the drop-off point and the crossing there. I think that's. I think that those are the only ones. Does anybody else have anything?
I think you covered it well. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, we now have Southern Pines, Vivian. Mr. Goodson, your lights are up here.
All right, thank you. I said Kingston's is over there, but actually you can't do that.
Huh? Oh. Okay, I think we're ready. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on our agenda is item number 3, Southern Pines subdivision. This is reviewed by Vivian Schimmel, and she will introduce the project.
Good evening, Vivian. Thank you.
Good evening. This is a major development order application submitted by Core Engineering and Consulting requesting the approval to develop 36 single-family residential lots consisting of 9.98 with future land use of low-density residential. This came to you as a small-scale amendment several months ago to requesting to reduce the property, the land use category from small neighborhood to low-density residential, so that it would better fit the area and be a better project to develop. We do have a few outstanding comments or conditions from environmental, but I believe they will be met by the applicant. And do you have any questions?
Yeah, did they end up, I saw y'all's comments about platting lots into environmental areas versus making them, common areas. What happened there?
I think that is a recommendation, and that is our environmental planner, Kristen Schell. I think it's something that we've been discussing for quite some time throughout planning, and that portion is a recommendation. I don't think we can require that, but it's a goal that we would like to.
It's a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the only lots here that would really fall into that category would be 22, 23, 24, 25? Is that the case?
I will let the...
And maybe 21 through 25, and you can let them give us that, but, and are they gonna buy out the sidewalk?
No, they have sidewalk.
They have one side of the road sidewalk? Okay, thanks.
Vivian, at the last board meeting on a different project, but in the same neighborhood, there was concerns about having identified as one of our 50 areas of stormwater attenuation problem. Is that impacting on this at all?
I did not receive a comment regarding that.
Where is this, Nellie Road?
It's on Nellie.
We can speak to it.
Okay.
I don't think it is, but...
I'll wait till the applicant gets up here. I want to talk about his stormwater and what he's going to do with it.
Yeah, I don't have any, thanks.
Troops are leaving.
We're ready for the applicant now.
Troops are leaving, yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ed Stanford. I'm with Core Engineering and Consulting, and I have been sworn. This was going to be a 20-lot subdivision, or I'm sorry, a 20-acre project, single-family residences, and through the process, we had a small neighborhood land use. We came back to the county and we said, hey, listen, we're not going to be able to achieve some of the civic and public uses in this location. Things have changed since 2002, 2004, when this project actually was changed to small neighborhood, but they didn't have an opportunity for the low-density residential. So we took the north 10 acres because it's the cleaner of the two 10-acre properties, and designed a 36-lot subdivision. These lots are roughly 55 feet by 110 feet. As part of our review process, some things changed late last year, and we went from being required a 25-year attenuation to a 100-year attenuation. So we do achieve that now. We lost and had to reconfigure the property. We lost a lot in the process. And so what you have now is 36 lots on that 10 acres. We are adjacent to mosquito control ditch. We pop off to that ditch. We do not impact the wetlands. We provide the 25-foot buffer. We are working with the county staff to include an additional 5-foot sort of secondary buffer per their recommendation. Evidently, they have a lot of instances where builders and homeowners may be encroaching upon the 25-foot buffer. So we are definitely open to that. One of the other comments was just we had some landscaping that was encroaching in the buffer, so we removed that. So that's the gist of it. If you're familiar with this location, it's north of Chat Holly on Nellie Drive. There's not a whole lot of traffic, not a whole lot of development along that in that area right now, but I'm sure it will come in the future. I'm open to any questions or comments you may have.
Do we have other questions, comments?
I think the answer to the stormwater concern I have. Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. You said that I noticed here that lots. It looks like 6, maybe 3, 5, and 6. The side of the lot is the wetland buffer.
Right.
Or in the rear of one of the lots is wetland buffer.
That's right.
So you said it would not be a problem to plat those lots to the eastern portion of that buffer and leave that buffer as part of your wetland area? Did you say that? Is that what you said?
Yeah, this is 124 foot. We're kind of getting to the limits of our. We actually have a home plan. And we need about 105 feet. So if we were to plat to the buffer, we would actually encroach upon our 105 feet.
Okay.
We would like, if we had to, we would put the buffer clearly on a plat. Obviously, it's got to be recorded as that anyways, and we've got another 5 foot. So I would rather, in order to, I guess, meet our in-house design desires and construction desires, that we would plat to the wetland. We can put the wetlands in a common space and have a 25-foot buffer, shown on our plat with the additional 5 foot, the secondary buffer, if you will. That's really a recommendation, not necessarily required, but we understand the reason for it.
Right, yeah, because, let's say Lot 5 wants to build a swimming pool. He's got to go into that, I would think, he's got to go into that wetland buffer to build it, wouldn't you think?
Well, we're not allowed to build into it, so,
Okay, so-
it just won't be an option for, if you look
For
at some
those
of
lots.
these, we do have the length that we need to possibly put a home and a pool in, but
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I don't see a lot of pools going in on this.
Okay, gotcha.
And we really work backwards from some home plans.
Okay.
And this meets those requirements.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have comments from the audience?
And I guess it's going to be a private road?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Seeing none. Oh, I do. Alan?
That's mosquito deal.
Alan Vaquero. I'm just curious, what's happening with the other 10-acre parcel?
Nothing.
It will never be developed? Or why didn't it just happen all at the same time?
Alan, we're really not talking about that tonight.
I'm just
I know you're speculating.
looking in the future.
Okay.
Is it to the north of this? Is that?
It's to the south.
To the south, okay. And it has a mosquito ditch running through it,
And
correct?
that's the reason why we didn't do anything with it, because crossing the mosquito control ditch at this time is cost prohibitive,
Right.
and we couldn't get a nice, uniform and contiguous infrastructure that wasn't exorbitant. So we're just
Okay.
letting that go, and there's different wetlands configurations that really inhibit the development today. Okay?
Right. Thank you for those answers. Okay. No one else out in the audience?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
With
opposed?
staff comments, with staff conditions.
Motion with staff conditions. Motion with staff conditions. Second with staff conditions.
Yes.
All right. Okay, the next project is Ridge Walk subdivision plat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ridgewalk subdivision plat has been reviewed by Tim Brown. At this point, we'd like to ask for the staff report to be entered into evidence. And Tim will introduce the project.
Good evening. This is a plat development order application submitted by JP Engineering requesting approval to plat 74 residential lots on 19.48 acres with the future land use of small neighborhood. It's located on the east side of County Road 393, south, immediately east of Ridge Road. There are four staff conditions. They have paid all their fees except for the 911 addressing fee. Everything else has been paid for, and I will answer any questions the board may have.
Yeah, Tim. Let's see. So they have to. They're going to pay the recreation plat fee. I see.
Yeah, they've already paid that.
Oh, they have.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because this was one. Okay.
That's why it's not in the condition. I initially had it in the conditions of approval, but they've
already paid it. Okay. And then they've got a fair share of almost $166,000 on the plan, and
which
maybe
has also been paid.
Have they paid that?
Yes.
Okay. Are the roads public or private?
Private, yes. They're going to be private.
Okay. And then I can't read. can't read what that heavy line is that is on the, so something about the change of flood zone or something? Could somebody explain that to me?
They had was it a Loma or a?
It was a unknown days on that went through the Clomer process.
They did a Clomer. Their Clomer has been approved by FEMA. Yeah, totally spaced it.
And
it's been approved, so they put a note to that effect that it's got the date that FEMA approved that on the plat. I know it's really small in those 11 by 17s.
okay, and tell me exactly what that means.
It's an unnumbered A zone, so they brought it out of the floodplain through the Clomer process. So FEMA signed off on it, so now the entire site is out of the floodplain, except for the wetlands, of course.
Okay. Okay, and they also have the, looks like they also have wetland buffer platted, platting into the wetland buffer on some of these lots.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the previous application, we can't prevent them from doing that, but we do try to discourage them from doing that.
Yeah. Okay. I just have a question. Can you build a house on lot 47?
It would be a small house, but I think the answer is yes, but it won't be
Okay.
very big.
Okay. Okay, I see. Okay, that's all I have right now. Thanks.
Okay, do we have any?
And this is the final plat, right?
Yes, final plat, yes.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? Any comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none. We're waiting on y'all.
A motion to approve the staff recommendation.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on our agenda is item number 5, the Electric Cart Company. We'd like to request that the staff report be entered into evidence.
Staff's Exhibit 1.
Tim Brown will introduce this one.
This is a major development order application submitted by Bell Engineering requesting approval to develop a 13,900 square foot sales/service space in 2 buildings on 1.09 acres with a future land use of village mixed use. It's located at 5426 US Highway 98 West. The project received a color and building material deviation from the Design Review Board on May 5th with a vote of 4-0, and the Design Review Board approved the project on May 5th, also a vote of 4-0. They have a proportionate fair share requirement of $15,100. No staff conditions unless other information is provided. Otherwise, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. And I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
What's the building immediately to the west?
It's an auto.
I think it's like Ron John's Auto. or something.
Yeah, yes, that's what it is.
Auto repair.
John John's.
It's where you see all the little cars parked out there where they're being repaired. Do I see, is that a sidewalk that I see out in front of this building?
Yes, yes, they're putting a sidewalk along Highway 98.
Great, because we need sidewalks on Highway 98. I know this only goes in front of their place, but eventually maybe we'll actually have sidewalks on 98 as well, so thank you.
I talk about that all the time. Eventually we'll have a continuous sidewalk down Highway 98.
It will happen. So they're going to, all of this is going to be inside, correct? They're not going to have any, they're not going to have any carts parked out, merchandising or anything
They are
like that?
proposing some through the outdoor advertising in Chapter 13.
Okay.
They're going to have a roof overhang right there near the front door.
Okay.
I don't know if it's 1 or 2, but they want to park at least 1,
Okay.
maybe 2 carts outside. But that front entrance, it is a showroom. So it's
Okay.
going to have, big glass windows to show.
To see them.
Right.
Okay.
But that was one of our questions. Was there going to be any outdoor merchandise? And the answer is yes, there's going to be some.
Okay, but it's going to follow under our
Yes, under the outdoor
requirement to-
merchandising in Chapter 13.
Okay.
So it is limited.
Right, okay. I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions? Any comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, what's the pleasure?
Motion to approve with any of the staff conditions that were attached.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on our agenda is the Dr. Patton Primary Care South project. And at this time, we'd like to ask that this staff report be entered into evidence.
Staff's Exhibit 1.
Tim Brown reviewed this project, and he will introduce it.
Thank you. This is a major development order application submitted by McNeil Carroll Engineering requesting approval to construct a 4,860 square foot medical office building with attached leasable office space on 0.86 acres with a future land use of village mixed use. It's located on the south side of US Highway 98, east of Hunters Road and west of Don Bishop Road. This project was approved by a vote of 5-0 by the Design Review Board at their May 5th meeting. It has a proportionate fair share requirement of $69,790. No other conditions there are no other staff conditions. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Same question, what's the building immediately to the west?
This one,
Car wash, isn't it?
it's,
I think it's a car wash. If I can read it.
I forget. Is it Design Center? Marquee Kitchens.
Okay.
Marquee Kitchens.
It's hard to read this one.
And they are also putting a a sidewalk along Highway 98.
Great, because there's so many people that, that walk out there. I see them all the time, so that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions, comments from the audience? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve with staff comments.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on our agenda is number 7, the Tom Thumb Store, number 116. At this time, we'd like to ask that the staff report be entered into evidence.
Staff's Exhibit 1.
And Tim Brown also reviewed this one and will introduce the project.
This is a major development order application submitted by Southern Site and Utility Design requesting approval to relocate the existing gas pumps and canopy onto the adjacent parcel to the west on 0.66 acres with the future land use of Coastal Center. It's located at 9637 US Highway 98 West. This went to the Design Review Board and was approved by a vote of 5-0 at their May 5th meeting. The biggest issue with this is they're required to bring the whole site up to code. So they're going to bring the site up for landscaping and parking, because right now there's hardly a stitch of landscaping on this site. There is some, but it's going to be completely up to the code for the US Highway 98 scenic corridor, and they're going to have it's currently non-conforming for parking, so they're going to have their required parking. There is no requirement for proportionate fair share, because all they're doing is relocating their gas pumps from the in front of the building to the side, and they're actually adding 2. Currently there's 4 pumps, there's going to be 6. And it also, I think, is going to improve the internal circulation, because now as you come in, the gas pumps are right there, so it doesn't work great getting in and out of there. But with the gas pumps on the side, the internal circulation is going to be much better. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. I'll entertain any questions the board may
Tim.
have.
I know staff report indicates there's an outstanding code violation, and if there, is it still there? And how do we rectify it?
This approval will resolve it.
Is it mainly the code violation because of landscaping and, or no?
Adjacent to this was a car wash.
Yeah.
They tore it down, paved over where the building was, and then started utilizing it. Tom Thumb bought the property, then started utilizing it as a parking lot. That's where the code violation came in. They were using it for parking without getting a development order. So once this gets approved and they get their development order, that resolves the code case.
All right, thank you.
I got a quick question. If you increase the number of pumps, how do you decrease the traffic?
Pumps don't generate traffic because some people will stop just to get groceries or just to get gas, whether there's 4 pumps or 2 pumps. There's no traffic generator involved with that. Typically, traffic is generated by square footage. If you're going to add square footage to the building, then you're going to increase the traffic. Because it's based on use. Whether there's 4 pumps or 10 pumps, it's still a convenience store gas station. Trips are generated based on use. Now, it did help them actually with their parking because we allowed the pumps to also count as 6 spaces. Because some people will stop and get gas and never go in the store. I do that all the time.
Oh, that's who that is. No. Let me ask you, Tim, or is that, do you have any other?
No, go ahead.
Does that answer your question?
Wanted to ask you, Tim, now, what is behind there? Is that a bona fide alley that goes from one point to another, or?
Yes, that's a platted alley for that. I think it goes with the subdivision to the south, but it's a platted alley.
Okay, so it belongs to the subdivision to the south?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so the comment I had from some folks was that, now the traffic would be routed out the back and down, I guess that would be Beach Drive North and the intersection of Horseshoe Circle, that it would exacerbate traffic situations coming down into their neighborhood.
That's happening now. I mean, right now you can go out the back way. They're not changing what's there now. They're going to be striping it and whatnot differently than it is now. But right now you can come into that through the alley, or you can exit through the alley. Either way.
Currently,
you can utilize the alley, and people do utilize it. I saw someone use the alley when I was out there.
Okay.
So it's not a change of what's there now. It may be a little more pronounced because the canopy's on the side. If you're coming in this way to get gas, you can go straight and go out the alley as opposed to coming around to get back onto Highway 98.
Yeah, it changes the traffic pattern, right? Probably because...
Possibly, yes.
Because people are going to learn that they could turn right and then left and go in the back way and not have to, have to worry about the 98. Okay.
That's true. But they do have 2 entrances on 98 as well.
They do have 2, yeah. That would be my only comment, is that if it's a paved alley and it goes with the neighborhood, platted as a neighborhood.
But typically, don't we? If it's platted, isn't that considered public? It's a public alley.
I don't. It depends on how it's. Like the alleys in Seaside are not public. Some neighborhoods are not public, but.
Previously, the car wash used that alley as their exit.
They did.
And that was the business that was removed to allow the Tom Thumb to expand.
Right. Okay. Well, let's hear from...
Yes. Do we have any comments, questions from the audience?
Oh, wait, we're going to hear from the applicant first.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Dunaway.
Didn't mean to bypass you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I'm Will Dunaway. I'm the attorney for the applicant. The applicant agent is here, as is the engineer. I thought I would just address the two comments that were made to see if that helps answer the question. One of them is, as staff indicated, the use was previously a car wash. That use, of course, generated trips. Those trips have been eliminated because there's no car wash there. So there's that, and that did utilize the alleyway in the back. To Ms. Meadows' comment, part of working with the surrounding community, the applicant reached out. There was some concerns about fencing and landscaping, and we've agreed, and that was part of the planning board. We showed that fencing and some additional landscaping to provide some buffer there, and that was one of the comments out of the planning board. Appreciated us working with them and resolving that comment. In fact, that individual came and spoke before planning board in a positive way, so that addressed that.
Okay,
and then
good.
finally, if you look at the site plan and the layout, if you enter the project, let's say you're coming off of 98 to get gas, you'll see the route that routes you in, and if you are, like Tim, going to stop and get gas and not go into the store, you come off of 98, you turn into the pumps, and now you're pointing east, and so you're going to exit that way. You would have to go all the way around to then exit in the rear.
I got you.
So that's the way we designed it, to put the traffic back on 98.
Okay. Okay, good. Is 98's expansion going to touch this at all? You know, the sixth laning of 98?
My understanding, through this section,
Yeah.
DOT has all the right-of-way they require. That's what I was told, that through this section, they don't need additional right-of-way.
Okay. Okay, let's hope not.
And Chairman, I had the applicant's agent and the engineer if there are other questions. Otherwise, we would reserve for rebuttal and are available for those comments.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, any questions, comments from the audience?
Okay, motion to approve, can we make a
Yes,
motion?
sure.
Motion to approve with staff's conditions.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at Phase 3. She's on her way.
Thank you, Commissioners. We'll start with item number 8 on our agenda. This is the Peach Creek Phase 3, formerly known as Phase 2B plat. Kristen Shell reviewed this plat, and she will introduce the project. At this time, I'd like to introduce the staff report into evidence.
Okay, staff's Exhibit 1.
Commissioners, this is a final plat request submitted by Interlight Engineering for 28 residential lots on about 10.43 acres. It's located near Old Ferry Road. And I wanted to mention about this one that it is part of a 2005 development order. There was a master plan, and the first 2 phases of this project have been platted. This is the third.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm David Smith with Interlight Engineering Corporation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
And you were sworn.
Actually, I have not been. I forgot about that. I have not been sworn.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provided this board will be the truth?
I do, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Just one question. Is this the same place that that the haulers come down, the heavy truck haulers come down?
Yes, ma'am.
It
It's,
is?
This sits at the northeast corner of Coochie and Old Ferry, and
Okay.
the trucks go down Coochie Road to the plant.
Okay, so they go by here on
On the south side.
Coochie Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, because we've had a lot of people out there in phases 1 and 2, say that those trucks are speeding. Down their road, but there's really no other way in and out, correct?
That's the only way.
Okay. Okay.
David,
Yes, sir.
this is 10.43 acres, and the density is two units per acre, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we're wanting to approve a plat of 28? How we get there?
The master plan was approved and is how the density is based, but we're only platting a portion of the property. But the overall master plan meets the density. And as Kristen pointed out, there's 5 total phases. We are under our allowable density, but this phase that we're platting does have 28 units on that acreage, that 10.04 acre. But the overall project is under the allowable density.
So this has 3 units per acre, but overall it's...
The overall master plan meets the density. Yes, ma'am.
Any comments, questions from the board? Any questions, comments from the audience?
Motion to approve the staff comments.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on our agenda is the Emerald Bay Phase 2A final plat. This is a plat application submitted by Preble Rish, requesting approval to plat 23 single-family lots on approximately 4.54 acres in compliance with the development order from 2006. All of the infrastructure was previously completed on this particular development, so there is no engineer cost certification. We will have a recreation plat fee that is payable, along with the 911 address fee and recording fees as appropriate to the number of pages of the plat. The rec fees estimated to be approximately $4,301.78 based on 6% of the land to be platted.
Mac, is this the subdivision that's in both Walton and Okaloosa counties?
It's a DRI that straddles the county line, yes, sir.
But this part is totally within Walton?
To get to this, you have to go to Okaloosa County, but you come back into Walton County within the development, and this entire plat is within Walton County.
This is a DRI, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. An old DRI approved as Tidewater Development. I didn't realize that.
I think they've got one more commercial piece that's sort of down towards 98 to develop, but it's essentially built out. This plat was reviewed by Renee Bradley, but she's having some back problems, so we didn't ask her to come down tonight. Be happy to answer any questions on her behalf.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Cliff?
Yeah. What are you going to do with the drainage, Cliff?
Good evening, Commissioners. Cliff Nauer, K-N-A-U-E-R. I've been sworn in. We have stormwater ponds as part of the project. They were built about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the property's really just been sitting. They just recently got the water and sewer recertified and the lift station up and running. And so be happy to answer any kind of questions you got.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Questions, comments from the audience?
Motion to approve with staff, any staff comments and conditions.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, next. Thank you, Cliff.
Commissioners, the next item on our agenda is the Summer House Bed and Breakfast. This is a major development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering requesting the approval to develop a bed and breakfast facility containing 25 guest rooms in a 3-story house with about 13,000 square feet on 0.65 acres. The future land use in our comprehensive plan is neighborhood infill, and in our comprehensive plan, in the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan, it's identified as neighborhood commercial under the definition of neighborhood commercial within the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan. Commissioners, y'all have received correspondence from interested members of the public that suggested a different interpretation of the comprehensive plan and land development code and the definition of a bed and breakfast. This property is neighborhood infill and neighborhood commercial within the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan, which is distinctly different from the future land use category of neighborhood commercial. That future land use category has a 10-unit limit on a bed and breakfast use. That land use category does not apply to this parcel. With regard to this parcel, it's allowed under the neighborhood commercial Inlet Beach neighborhood plan definition to be limited lodging and a bed and breakfast. The definition within, or the property that existed at the time of adoption of the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan that most closely resembled the allowable use proposed for this property is specifically identified in the Inlet Beach plan as the Inlet Inn, which had approximately 25 units. The definition of a bed and breakfast within the comprehensive plan and both within the land development code neither have a limitation on number of units. With regard to licensing of the facility, which is not a Walton County concern, it's a state Department of Business and Professional Regulation concern, their definition of a bed and breakfast suggests it's a one-building residential in character that can have up to 15 rooms to be able to be licensed as a bed and breakfast through the state of Florida. If it has more rooms than that, it has to be licensed as a hotel. But those are the distinctions that apply to this particular development. Yes, ma'am.
So, which one prevails, the Comp Plan Land Development Code or the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan?
The Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan is a component of the comprehensive plan, so we have to look at both the Inlet Beach Plan and the future land use map, which allows limited lodging and a bed and breakfast in neighborhood infill, to make sure that the proposed development complies with both sets of regulations. And in this case, we believe it does.
Excuse me, save your comments. I'll let you talk in just a minute,
Okay,
please.
Mac, in neighborhood infill, isn't that 8 units to the acre with 5% commercial?
In the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan, there are two flavors of density. And this one certainly has and I'm not sure if this is a 4-unit or an 8-unit, but we didn't look at density when looking at this particular development. This is a bed and breakfast. We don't apply density to a bed and breakfast. We apply intensity to that, and it's based on square footage and floor area ratio.
I thought, though, neighborhood infill had to be primarily residential and could have a component of commercial, but that component could only be 5% of the area. Is that correct?
But limited lodging is allowed in neighborhood infill.
Limited lodging is allowed in neighborhood, okay, limited, and what is our definition of limited lodging?
Well, I can, if you'd like, I can get the code and.
Yeah, I'd like to just know what the definition of limited lodging is. And then, while you're getting that, so the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan has it designated as neighborhood commercial.
Walton County Comprehensive Plan, glossary of terms on page 3 of 28, defines a bed and breakfast as a limited lodging facility under single ownership that is residential in appearance and character.
Excuse me.
Okay, and then is there a limit on the number of rooms?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and then when you go to the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan, what is their definition of what's allowed in their neighborhood commercial?
If I could first refer to the definition in the Land Development Code for bed and breakfast.
Sure, go ahead.
It's a commercial lodging establishment providing rooms for rent on a short-term rental basis which provides meal services as a component of the rental agreement. The distinguishing characteristic of this establishment is the residential character of the building and grounds and resulting minimal impacts on commercial intensity on surrounding properties. There is no limitation on the number of rooms.
Okay.
Within the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan, under the subsection 3.4, Neighborhood Commercial, 3.43, limited lodging facilities shall be allowed within the neighborhood commercial. Limited lodging is a bed and breakfast type lodging facility housed with one primary structure as residential and exterior character. Now, if we go to Appendix D, Neighborhood Commercial Designation, the neighborhood commercial of Inlet Beach is made up of properties along the northern section of Highway 30A, and those properties located on US 98 corridor, which transits Inlet Beach from east to west. Buildings shall be of neighborhood scale or character and shall be primarily for business use, such as retail services, entertainment, office, medical, artisanal, limited lodging, restaurants without drive-up facilities, sports clubs, fitness centers, dance schools, small theaters, and taverns. There shall be no outdoor broadcasting of music, as described in the T&D requirements both sides of US 98. Display similar land uses on facing streets. Established land use pattern shall be the land use for properties bordering US 98. And in that next section, it specifically identifies existing businesses that met these definitions at the time of the adoption of this neighborhood plan. Under limited lodging, it says the Inlet Inn. And it goes on to specify specific lots, lot numbers that have this definition.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
One, Mac, in the staff report, they indicate there is an active code violation on this piece of property. Can you speak to that?
I'm not sure exactly what that is, but our staff does know.
Good.
I'm sorry, this project was originally started by another planner. It's no longer with us, and I'm not sure what that code violation might have been at the time it was written.
May I suggest that in the future, if there is an indication of a code violation, to expound upon it, please?
Any other questions, comments before we hear from the applicant? No. Scott Jenkins, Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you. Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering. I have been sworn in tonight. I think Mac did a pretty good job of explaining the important issues associated with this. I'll just run through the information on the site itself. As Mac stated, it is on the north side of 98. It abuts 98 and accesses off of 98 in the Inlet Beach area. It's about 0.65 acres. The future land use is infill, but the neighborhood commercial overlay in the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan is actually I think the guiding guidance that we're kind of bound to as far as the design of this site. Within the neighborhood plan, it allows for a maximum floor area ratio and maximum impervious surface ratios, both of which we meet. And actually, this site is about 50% of the impervious surface, so about 50% is open space. We've designed the project to retain the 100-year event. We have a good site that has good sands. It's a mix of both exfiltration that's underneath the parking and swales throughout the site. As you can see on the site plan here, actually we have landscape buffers that are 20 feet, landscape buffers along the east property line here, and a 20-foot landscape buffer along the northern property line. We have a 25-foot scenic corridor buffer. This has been through Design Review Board also, and Planning Commission. The parking requirements on the site were actually 27.5 spaces, which we round up to 28, and we provide 28 spaces on site. It has parking on the first level with 2 stories above, and that basically gives you the highlights of the property itself. Again, the traffic accesses off of 98 where they have an existing curb cut already. The general information associated with the site and the architectural, I'll let Steve talk about some of the characteristics associated with the building. But as Mac stated, it's about 13,000 square feet total, so about 6,500 or 6,600 per level, basically, of a footprint. I'll be happy to answer any engineering questions you guys may have.
So the drainage, Scott, is going to be underground?
Not all of it. We actually have a combination. We have retention, surface retention in these areas and exfiltration underneath the parking, just so we have a better way to collect.
And then how much parking do you have?
28 spaces, with
Okay,
2 of those being handicapped.
Okay, is that what's required for?
Yes, ma'am.
And these are they like bedrooms, or like one room with a bed in it and a bath in every room?
Yes, ma'am. They're one room.
And is there a kitchen and a dining area and?
There is. It's a little harder to see on this layout, but there's actually a lobby area and a dining area that's on this level here. Steve can speak more to that. It's about 20% of the total building area is common space.
Okay, thanks. That's all the question I had.
I'll let Steve speak about the architectural components.
Good evening. Steve Piazza with Piazza Design Architects. I need to be sworn in.
Will you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
As Scott has mentioned, we took in consideration of different things. The kitchen area itself, that was one of the concessions we worked with the community. We had a couple of different things. We had a couple meetings with them. Some of those things we've incorporated into it. Basically, landscape buffer, they requested that the trees in that 20-foot strip along the residential areas to the north and to the east side, to put in larger trees, put in some pine trees, put in something that's going to have some height to it to block their view. So we agreed to do that. One of the other things they requested was leaving the existing higher fence. We can't do that, but you can if you just, because it has to be a 6-foot high fence. If they want to leave the 8, I think you can grant that.
So where would that fence be?
The existing fence, where is it?
It's along the boundary of the subdivisions to the east, basically.
Okay, so you've got proposed a 6-foot fence?
Well, there's an existing fence in the area already. We would like to leave that there or make it better if possible. But the problem is scenic corridor allows a height limitation of 6 feet. when you're on
Right.
scenic corridor.
Okay. Is that a variance, Sydney, or is that?
Yes, ma'am. So the variance process for the scenic corridor is actually before the design review board.
Yeah, so that we couldn't vary the fence with this, is that right?
That's correct. Design review board.
Yeah, y'all have to take that to the design review board, okay.
Okay, you put that to the rendering.
But we could put bigger trees there.
Yeah,
larger
and that was part of the
trees.
thing. Something like a pine tree that would be faster growing, that would give more of an area. Some of the, in the discussions, the other thing, we had a 3-story. We took the top floor off, reduced the number of units to 25. It was 28 or 29. So we
it's
did
25 feet?
We took the top floor off completely. Also, there was concerns about people on the walkway looking back towards the residential area. We redesigned the floor plan to eliminate some of that problem. You see in your package, the floor plan there used to be a walkway on the north side over the roadway. We now have units there. So it limits it. I can't totally block that because we want views. It's got rooms on all sides. I can't just make a wall there. Some of the other things were the kitchen. They didn't want to have the smells from the kitchen, so we've gone ahead and done a food prep area. Well, it would be cooked basically off-site and brought to the site and just put in a prep area so we wouldn't have the kitchen problem for the neighborhood. And those are basically some of the concessions we worked in and got to the point where we are right now. Limited the numbers, rotated the rooms, that there's not a uniform look to it. If you notice, the rooms rotate 90 degrees in pairs, and give private areas and public areas. Like Scott had said, about 20% of our gross square footage is dedicated towards public. Whether it's the lobby, we have a sitting room, we have a dining area, we have a lounge and library on the 3rd floor, we have open deck areas for gathering places, bicycle racks and stuff on the ground, just trying to keep it more bed and breakfast, more of a residential feel to the whole thing.
Do you have a swimming pool?
No, there was no room for a swimming
No
pool.
swimming pool?
We could put it on a roof, but that wouldn't be residential. And also in the scenic corridor review process, they had asked me to remove the metal off of these, which we did. It's now all tile, and we raised the pitch up to a 6 and 12 to give a more of a. Since we took the top floor off, we had plenty of room that we're way below the 50-foot mark.
When you took the top floor off, what was it, rooms?
They had some rooms up there. And I
Okay.
had to redistribute some down. That's why the rooms were able to block up that corridor. And
Okay. So you shifted them around, so
Right.
you cut the level of the building,
Yeah.
okay.
And the common areas, if you know, this whole section here, this whole front section is basically all common area.
Okay.
I got a question.
Sure.
I guess I'm not following this good. I've got 2 sheets here, one labeled CO3 and one labeled AO2, both describing a first floor site plan. And when I look at it.
CO, I don't have a CO.
CO3, it's got your ground floor parking and your first floor site plan on it.
I got a site plan, a AO1, which is,
I got AO2, which I've shown as mine.
well, yeah, it's, what I'm calling is ground floor, first floor, second floor. So if you want to call it first floor, is parking, second floor is living, third floor is that. It's terminology.
Okay, so, all right, so what am I looking at when it says first floor site plan?
First floor site plan is the
CO3?
first living floor, because the first floor is the garage and the lobby.
Okay, in
That's a-
CO3, we've got a library
Right,
and a room, but over on AO2, it calls it a dining room and sitting area
right.
with food prep.
And a
what is-
real deck area over by the back rooms and some on the side. And then the lobby area is on the ground floor with,
But so, all right, here's,
and balconies in the front.
here's what, just bear with me a second. 'cause-
Sure.
All right, on the one plan, it shows it's a library and linen area. That's not the first floor, that's the second floor now?
That, it says the second floor, but it would be the third, top floor.
Thanks.
Okay.
So I don't have that, I don't,
What I'm trying to,
okay.
what I'm
So-
talking about
All right,
is, this level here is ground level, which is mostly parking.
Scott,
First
do you,
floor is this level, second floor is this level.
okay. Scott, do you have your CO3 plan?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at your CO3 drawings and then the
Right.
AO2 drawings, and this is where I'm getting a little bit
Okay.
not understanding, is,
O2 drawings is this level, right here.
Right.
O3 drawing is this level, right here.
okay. What I'm looking is both labeled first floor plan.
Yeah, see, it's got first, it says first floor, and then when you look at it, it shows the library and such. So-
Library and a linen room, whereas on this one it shows a dining room and food prep.
See up above, it says first floor.
Look at the very top.
The
letter. There you
label,
go.
yeah, right there, yeah.
This is just showing the overall boundary of the building on our
That's-
site plan.
That's not,
That's right. This was actually the top floor, basically.
Okay.
Because it's the outside boundary of the building is what we're trying to show here, from the setback.
Okay.
he's not an architect.
Just the shaded area
Yes, ma'am.
is the building, okay.
Just the shaded, that's correct.
Okay.
I see the confusion, I never noticed that.
Any other questions or comments? Questions, comments from the audience? Okay, this gentleman on the second row at the very end, would you come up? State your name and were you sworn?
Commissioners, I'm Charles Shaddy, and I've been sworn.
How do you spell your last name?
Schatti.
Let me go ahead.
I live in the Waterview neighborhood, which is next to this proposed project. I've attended all the previous meetings, and the neighborhood association, the Waterview and homeowners association, is not in favor of this project. I'm the president of the homeowners association. When you read the Florida Department of Professional Development Regulations, and you read the Walton County Development Code, or you read the future land use element policies, it is confusing, but it seems to be pretty clear that this project does not fall under what is really meant to be a bed and breakfast, that it really falls under what's really meant to be a hotel. Okay? And if this thing is approved, okay, that's just going to open the door for other developers to come in and build more hotels, because once you open that door, it's open and it's hard to close again. Okay? The proposed building is 3 stories high. That's higher than the 2-story houses that are right next door to it. There's less than 50 feet between the project building and one of the neighborhood houses. Okay. So we're concerned about noise. We're concerned about the increased traffic and congestion. Okay. Lighting can be an issue. The developers have said that, the engineers have said that there's going to be, the lighting for the parking lot will be down low. Okay. but there are balconies, and there must be safety and security lighting for those balconies, and that's going to provide light pollution into the neighborhood. Okay. The development code also says that the hours of operation for non-residential development must be compatible with the hours of operation of surrounding non-residential uses. There are no other commercial buildings in that area that are going to be used 24 hours a day. Okay? So this is different from all the other commercial properties there. Okay, also that the proposed development will not create adverse impacts from noise, smoke, exhaust emissions, dust, lighting, vibration, okay, detrimental to the reasonable use or enjoyment of the existing surrounding neighborhood. Okay, and we believe that this would be the case here, especially with the lighting and the noise from the operations of the establishment. I think that this project will impact the neighborhood and impact the property values and really should not be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next.
Good evening. My name is Shane Odom. I'm the president of the Historic Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association.
Have you been sworn?
And I have not been sworn.
Will you raise your right hand?
I will.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm going to basically read a prepared statement and then a few quick comments. It won't take very long. The Summer House Bed and Breakfast, so-called, is a proposed major development on the north side of US 98, just east of Inlet Crossings. This 0.65 acre parcel is presently home to a few small cottages with designated land use of neighborhood commercial. As proposed, bed and breakfast is to be a 3-story, 13,130 square foot building containing 25 rooms. The Historic Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association Board of Directors opposes this proposal because it exceeds the comprehensive plan, land development code provisions for bed and breakfast facilities not to exceed 10 lodging rooms. Moreover, the Florida statute defines a public lodging establishment containing sleeping room accommodations for 25 or more guests to be a hotel. Hence, for licensing and regulatory purposes, Summer House, as proposed, is a hotel. There is no Walton County land use provision which permits hotels to be built in areas designated as neighborhood commercial. The application to construct a hotel on a parcel with designated land use as neighborhood commercial should not be approved. The Walton County Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Codes both employ the same explicit language concerning neighborhood commercial allowed use for bed and breakfast facilities not to exceed 10 lodging rooms. I'm not sure why that wasn't brought out by Mac, but it's in there, Mac. Florida statute defines a hotel as any public lodging establishment containing sleeping room accommodations for 25 or more guests. While not directive concerning Walton County land use, the state will license and regulate the proposed facility as the hotel operation it will become. The Board of County Commissioners should deny the application as not compliant with clear comprehensive plan and land development code guidance. Now, from listening to Mac, it seems like somebody has gone through a lot of research to try to find the gap between the comprehensive land plan and the Inlet Beach overlay. And I don't think that's the way either one were intended to be used. The question has been asked several times, and I still don't think we have an answer. Well, we got sort of an answer. There is no actual kitchen, and I think when all of us think of a bed and breakfast, we think of a small facility with limited number of rooms, mom and dad in there cooking breakfast for all the guests. We have a food preparation area. That's not what we think of as a bed and breakfast. And what is the actual height? Has anybody asked what is the actual height of it? You know?
Yeah, 32 feet.
To the very top.
To the very top?
Okay.
Or to the midline?
What?
Where are you asking?
Just curious.
No,
You brought up that we had taken off the third floor, which we didn't take off the third floor. We did some redesign work, but we didn't eliminate it. It's still a 3-story.
So 32 feet is what? Okay.
32 feet.
All right, moving on, please.
So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shane.
Where did you get the tent, Sean? Where'd you get the tent, Shane? I'm sorry. Where'd you get the 10 rooms? Where is that found?
This is based on information that we sent to our attorney, who is Gary Vorback, and was also researched by Bob Murphin. And I didn't actually look it up myself, but it is in the Land Development Code to describe what should be considered a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
Matt, would you address that, please?
Thanks.
As I addressed that in my opening remarks, Commissioner, what Mr. Odom is referring to is the neighborhood commercial land use category. The standalone neighborhood commercial land use category that is not part of the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan. And although the two words are the same in the title, the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Commercial is completely different and separate from the part of the comprehensive plan that Shane is referring to. The part he's referring to does have a numeric limitation on it. If this land use was neighborhood commercial and not neighborhood infill in the comprehensive plan, then that would apply. But in this particular case, it's neighborhood infill and not neighborhood commercial future land use district. It's neighborhood commercial within the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan, which is also a component of the comprehensive plan. State law requires us to approve something that we can't point to a specific regulation that prohibits it. And we're bound by that. We're not looking for a loophole in the code. In fact, we're trying to close any loopholes in the code as we find them, with your permission, of course. But in this particular case, it meets our requirements.
Matt, going back to your initial comments, maybe I forgot it. Is the state going to regulate this as a bed and, as proposed, would the state regulate this as a bed and breakfast, or would they regulate it as a hotel?
I don't believe it could be licensed as a bed and breakfast under the regulations as I read them, but I'm not the permitting agency for their license. That's not a Walton County area purview.
I saw another hand back in the back. Very back row. Come on up, please.
Hello, my name is Frank Green, Greene. I haven't been sworn.
Okay. You have not?
No.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm a resident of Inlet Beach on Walton Rose Plain, which is the street that comes off of 98 immediately opposite this parcel. I've made some notes on my phone here if you don't mind me looking at them. Calling this a bed and breakfast, which has been one of the items of contention in the meeting here, is a matter of semantics. It says that it also indicated that the structure that this facility was going to be in is a house. I don't know that you could call what this is going to be a house by any stretch of the imagination. One aspect, two aspects actually that I want to talk about briefly are the requirement that it have a residential character, which is in the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan. And I don't see that the little glimmer I saw of a rendering of the front of this building does not seem to me to be of a residential character. For one thing, a building with 14 or so parking spaces under it, I don't see how that could be considered to have a residential character. Also, this is an extremely dense property. It's 25 units on 2/3 of an acre, plus 28 parking spaces. The Inlet Inn, which was referenced previously as being an example of the types of development that were existing in Inlet Beach and might be acceptable in Inlet Beach, was a establishment of, I think, a similar size, but probably on 4 or 5 times as much land. The density, the intensity of this this project on this property, I think, is not in keeping with the residential character provision of the Inlet Beach Neighborhood Plan.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay. Betty, Ms. Letcher.
Betty Letcher, Inlet Beach, and I haven't been sworn.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, I was not going to speak, but I always sit there and listen and say, okay. I'm not against a bed and breakfast. I've stayed in many all over, and I've never seen anything like this as a bed and breakfast. I think it'd be great if they brought it down to 15 or 10 or whatever, made it bed and breakfast. Now, if they have to go and get a state license, are they going to be able to get it, even if we approve it, if they're stating that? So I'm just saying it just doesn't, and that's a little over ½ acre to put that much. Okay, you've got 25 rooms, and you're going to fill them up, believe me, this day and time. Then you have 3 extras. So how many, there's got to be maids there and whoever's going to prepare the breakfast and this type thing. So there you don't have enough parking for all of this. So I'm not against a bed and breakfast. I think they're wonderful, but let's really bring it down to what it really is, because it's going to be a hotel and it is going to open the door, because we got a lot of land left on 98. So I'd appreciate it if you would not approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? In the very corner back, in the back.
If I could just respond to Commissioner Infeld's request about the code violation. Previous code violation, stop work order has been issued. It was for a number of Katrina cottages that had, I'm sorry, Commissioner Chapman. Katrina cottages that had been moved on site and were being hooked up to electricity without permits. We issued a stop work order on it. This development will remedy that code violation.
Okay, now, sir.
My name's Adam Boyer. I have not been sworn in.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for hearing us out. It really helps out with everything that's going on. So thank you for letting us hear our voice heard. I live right behind the, I guess, can I move this? Oh, sorry. Well, I'm sorry. Well, right where I moved that cursor right there, that's where my house is.
It's to the north of the property.
Yes, ma'am. Right to the northeast corner. That one right there. Yeah, that's the one. So over the past development that's already gone there is 2 stories. The 30 Avenue and stuff like that went pretty much right behind my house. That's not too bad. They put a nice fence up. I can still see the sunset. I can still see nice stuff. This thing is going to be really, really big right in the back of my yard. They do have a 12-foot or 10-foot privacy fence that if this does go through, that I ask to please stay up. It does help out a lot and will help out a lot if this thing gets big. But I just don't really know what to say. I'm really sad that this thing's going to go up. We have a lot of cool things in this area, and driving into Inlet Beach, you see nothing but sand dunes. Everything's kind of low-key, nice white Alice Beach area. And to have this be the pinnacle viewpoint driving in Inlet Beach in and out, because it will be the biggest structure that's there now, it's just unpleasant. It's just so unpleasant. And to cram all those people right onto that little spot on 98 where there's already traffic light right to the west of there, and we have Orange Street right to the east of there, pulling out 50 cars, or 25, they're going to have a guest with them. So, pulling out that many cars on a 98 when there's already stop signs is going to cause congestion all the way back up to Orange Street, which is going to be a pain in the butt for anybody trying to get out of there. Also, the beach access right across the street at South Orange Street. I've been a lifeguard for South Walton for about 11 years. I've been with the program since it started, and we have a pretty busy beach access there now, considered to 10 years ago. So, and it's only growing. We're already running out of parking spots. So if you throw another 50 people right across the street that are going to use that access, it's going to even be more of a pain in the butt for everybody. That's pretty much all I had to say. I just wanted to be known and just say, please don't do this to us. I like stuff. I like development. I think it should be there, but just cut it in half. 10 rooms, that's solid. But 25 rooms being in my backyard is just not acceptable. And I would definitely not live there if I would have known this thing was going up. But thank you very much for hearing this.
Thank you, Adam. Yes, ma'am, on the front row.
Mac, while she's coming up, how far is it from that site to the east to 30A? Guesstimate.
I'll find out.
Just outside, quarter mile.
just outside of Quarter Mile. And in that intersection, isn't there a multi-story hotel?
My name is Ann Hamer, Hamer. I have been sworn. I have a question about the parking. It said they had 28 spaces. And if it's neighborhood infill, isn't it 1.5 parking spaces per bedroom? Because it seems to me that we're sliding back and forth between what is overriding this to be approved. Is it the beach plan, which is meant to be part of the comprehensive plan? It's not supposed to be separate. We work within. I mean, when we wrote the Inlet Beach, we worked very hard to write this plan, working with the comprehensive plan. We're not trying to find loopholes. We're not trying to find a way that one type of wording overrides the other. You know, they work together. But it seems to me the parking, if it's neighborhood infill, then it should be 1.5 spaces per bedroom. But if it's neighborhood commercial, so there seems to be, we're sliding around here, and that's my question. What about the parking? Isn't it supposed to be 1.5 spaces per unit if it's neighborhood infill?
1.1 space per hotel room.
Per hotel.
Hotel, limited lodging, hotel, bed
You
and
get your
breakfast.
chance to come to the podium, and just please.
Say that again, Matt.
Okay, so I'm confused.
I'm sorry.
No, we're sorry. Go ahead.
The standard we have to use for limited lodging, which includes hotels, motels, and bed and breakfast, is 1.1 space per guest room.
So then we don't have enough. So then it seems that we don't have enough parking. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Now, I heard other voices, so come up. Wait, if you've already been up, haven't you already been up? Let's see, let's get everybody that has not been up, and then, okay, yes.
Yeah.
My name is Nicholas Beninati, that's Beninate, and I have been sworn. I have a few additional comments on behalf of the applicant, specifically to address this question of how does the state definition interplay with your rules. I'd like to just first of all state that I provided an opinion letter ahead of time to your county attorney and your planning staff. I think if you ask your county attorney, you'll hear that he agrees with these opinions. The general conclusions of that letter were that the state's definition is not relevant to your decision tonight.
Sir,
It's not
I'm
relevant
sorry.
to
Are
your
you
code.
representing the applicant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be rebuttal.
Yeah.
You'll have to wait till the end of the public comment.
That's fine. Sure.
We'll get you back up. Anybody else from the audience? Yes, sir, right here.
My name is David Smith, and I have been sworn in. I would love to come to one of these meetings where we aren't trying to fit a piece of development in with a shoehorn. Time and time again, we are doing the absolute minimum. And I agree with the person that said there is not enough parking here. And I would like the developers to count out the 28 spaces that they are counting. And if 2 of those are for handicap, then when they don't have a handicapped person in the facility, what are they going to do? So that takes away 2. It's open 24/7, was what I heard. So there has to be an employee on property 24/7. There have to be maids coming in. So when the parking lot is filled, what is the plan for where those cars are going to park? And that's a big question. Where are they going to park? And one of the spaces that I looked at, they show it as a space, but on the landscape plan, they have a live oak or an oak tree in that space. So what's going to prevail, the tree or the parking space? Before I've been to some of these meetings, and I was always told the comprehensive plan always prevails. Is that what I'm hearing tonight? I'm hearing, well, maybe not. Maybe the inlet beach plan prevails. Maybe it doesn't. And also, I can appreciate that they say the state licensing doesn't hold any weight. But if they are going to have to pay to get that licensing, then it should say it's a bed and breakfast and not a hotel. It just makes common sense. And I think that's what we're looking for here, is just some common sense, that they're trying to put a hotel on a piece of property that it doesn't fit on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? If there's no other comments, then Shane, you can come back up, Mr. Whatever your name is, Sean Shane. Sorry.
I just want to clarify my statement that I think Mac took inappropriately. I wasn't saying that staff tried to find a gap. What I am saying is the applicant has identified an area that seems to be gray between the comp plan and the inlet beach plan that he thinks he can use to build a hotel and call it a bed and breakfast. And if the commission allows that, that's going to continue to happen. Because the next guy that wants to build a hotel will come say, I'm building a bed and breakfast. So we have to establish a precedent now. And somebody somewhere within the county really needs to start looking at the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan and the comp plan and seeing where these gaps are or these gray areas, and let's get them closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments before we have the rebuttal? Okay. Okay. Scott, are y'all ready to come? Oh, yes, sir. You come up now. Now's the time to come.
My apologies. Things are a little more formal tonight than I'm used to. Do you want me to start over?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm new, so if it's more formal, that's because I'm just a formal person.
Oh, it's better this way.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
All right. My name is Nick Beninati, Beninate. I have been sworn in. I'm an attorney speaking on behalf of the applicant. Just additional comments to address some of the items that have been discussed. I'm focusing just about entirely on this numerical standard question, and to the extent that the state's rule matters tonight. In advance of this meeting, I submitted an opinion letter to your county attorney. As I mentioned before, I think he'll agree with these opinions. I welcome you to encourage you to ask him his opinion. The general conclusions, though, were that the state's 15-unit rule doesn't apply tonight. It's not relevant. You have your own rules that you apply, and that this area doesn't actually have a numerical standard at all. You focus on the exterior residential character. That's the primary consideration. So the first point I'd like to make, a few points. The simplest is we're not talking about the same terms. We're loosely saying bed and breakfast, but the state's term it uses, it's a defined term, it's a licensed category, is bed and breakfast inn. It's very specifically defined. In your local codes, you never use the term bed and breakfast inn, ever. In the neighborhood plan for Inlet Beach, the phrase is actually bed and breakfast type lodging facility. You use different variations of phrases similar to that throughout your local codes, but never bed and breakfast inn. You'll also find that the definition for the state it's not just this numerical issue. It's not similar at all to any of your definitions because it wasn't meant to be. One wasn't supposed to apply to the other. The state's rules, the county's rules, the county's rule, and they're independent. So the state and the county have different roles that are totally independent in this whole process to eventually get a business opened as a hotel or a bed and breakfast or a transient rental establishment. There's so many different categories, but you're very familiar with the county's role. The county's role is the land use aspect. Basically, where can businesses go? Where can different uses of property go? You've been working through those issues all night. That's your domain. The state has a totally different role. They have a business licensing regulation and inspection program. It's focused on health, safety, and consumer protection issues. And they don't focus on they don't focus on land use issues here. Those are all dealt with in other chapters that the state has promulgated in the statutes. And they have clearly given those land use roles to counties and cities, except for a few very specific areas to deal with big projects, important comprehensive plan changes, not regular development order approvals on small acreage for small businesses. So what's interesting, if that's still hard to fathom that the state's rule really doesn't matter, the state doesn't care about this. So this is the application package for the state's license. This is the same package for hotel, motel, transient apartment, bed and breakfast inn. They don't even ask what the zoning, what the future land use category is. They don't ask what neighborhood plans might be in place. They're not worried about it. They leave that all up to you. So they're not intending to override any of your definitions. Just in summary, this property doesn't have a certain numerical limitation, but we do encourage you to analyze the effort and the design that the applicant's gone through, the accommodations they've made with many of the other folks around the neighborhood in the area that aren't here tonight. This started off looking a little different and ended up looking much more residential, and we just request that you approve this project pursuant to your local codes.
Thank you. Scott, do you have any other comments?
Just a couple of things. Just to clarify, I guess. One was the parking question. As stated by MAC, the requirement is 1.1 space per room. We have 25 rooms. That would be 27 and a half spaces as required. We provide 28. Because this is in the scenic corridor, we could have actually applied a 20% reduction because our parking's in the rear and the side. We did not. We did not do that. We provided what was required. The other thing that I would say is that, I heard statements that they're trying to put too much on too small a piece of property. I'd point out again that the impervious surface ratio is 50% on this, or a little less than 50. It's 50% green space on the piece of property. And then also I would say that, the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan is part of the comprehensive plan. There's been some confusion about that. It's part of it, and it's adopted by the county to be the guiding issues within this area. And, we're not trying to get around any codes. We're just trying to apply the code and do what the code says can be done on this piece of property. And there is nothing that I've seen and nothing that staff's pointed out tonight that's not met on this piece of property. We just ask that you guys would consider that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? What's the pleasure? How's it going?
I can see this can be confusing, but based upon staff's recommendation, make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? With no second, then do we have an alternative motion?
Motion to deny.
Do we have a second? We got to do one or the other.
A question to council: what happens if neither motion goes forward?
Well, if we don't, we have to vote on one or the other at some point, or if both motions die for lack of a second, then the project would have to be continued to another day.
I will second Commissioner Meadows' motion.
To deny?
Yes. Yes.
We have a motion and a second to deny. All in favor to deny, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, nay.
Nay.
So it's 2-2.
Under our code and under our policies in a quasi-judicial hearing, a 2-2 vote on any motion is a denial of the project.
So this is a denial of the project?
Yes.
We'll let everybody clear out that needs to leave, and then we'll move on. Arnett Farmers Market.
Yes, ma'am. Our next item on the agenda is the Arnett Farmers Market. It's a major development order application submitted by ECM requesting to construct a 20,000 square foot commercial farmers market on just under 10 acres with a future land use of light industrial. This particular development is one that is contributing right away for a new access road from 393 to Helen McCall Park. They have an approximate $27,000 proportionate fair share impact fee due based on their traffic. Because of the contribution of the right-of-way, which has been appraised at approximately $117,000, this parcel will receive a net credit of approximately $90,000 in proportionate fair share that would be credited towards future development of the parcel. The proposed building only occupies a portion of the 20-acre parcel. I just wanted to get that credit into the record. Tim Brown is here to introduce the project.
The only addition I have is, at the Planning Commission meeting, there was a person that got up and spoke who was representing the property to the north of this. The parcel immediately to the north, right there along 393. He asked the applicant if they would put additional landscaping along the northern property line. They've done that. The plan you have should show that additional landscaping along that property line. There are shown 4 conditions of approval. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
I have a question, Tim. One of my plans shows a driveway entrance onto the new easement road, and then one plan doesn't show an entrance there. So is there going to be an entrance out the south to the new Walton County easement?
I think that's the plan, because that was another thing that came up at the Planning Commission meeting, was the current entrance off of 393 is supposed to be temporary until that road is built.
Okay.
But we don't know when that road's actually going to get built.
Okay.
But the other item that was asked for, and it's in the Planning Commission minutes, was require them to take that out 180 days, no more than 180 days after that road's complete. Once it's all signed off, the road is done, they would have to take out that temporary entrance and put in the entrance onto the new road to Helen McCall Park no more than 180 days. That was the request through the Planning Commission.
Okay. The only thing I had was the dumpster is up on the north part, adjacent to the housing. And my question was, could you move the dumpster, further down south? Yeah, so that, it's just the noise of the emptying the dumpster and stuff like that. So if you could relocate the dumpster, that was my only comment right now.
Any other comments? Okay. Applicant, would you come forward?
Real kind of slow these days. Daryl Barnhill, Barnhill, representing ECM Engineers. I have been sworn in. We certainly agreed to relocate that dumpster in a location further south. We've agreed to put on our new application in detail the graphic representation of the additional landscaping that was requested. So as Mr. Brown said, we have submitted that and they have approved that. In addition, that we suggested that they make part of the granting of the development order the 180 days removal of the temporary driveway, because that seemed to be some concern of the neighbors. So those two issues we certainly don't have a problem with. During the Planning Commission hearing, there seemed to be some questions regarding stormwater. When we submitted our plan last year, your staff looked at it and determined this was an area of critical stormwater concern. Consequently, we had to increase our ponds by about a third, deepen them in some areas, and retain critical event of a 100-year storm. And so, in efforts to be brief, let me point out a couple of things, what came out of that discussion with your staff. What we're looking at, based on the size of our ponds, on a 100-year storm attenuation, if you look at the post versus the pre, in every case, there is less water going into the mosquito control ditch and possibly affecting the neighbors after we build this development than there is now. And we had to demonstrate that through accepted engineering practices. And we've got that on the graphic to represent that. Some items decreasing it by as much as a third that currently goes on to the north mosquito control ditch. So we met every requirement of the Land Development Code comprehensive plan in accordance with your staff report, and we will make note and work with your staff to relocate the dumpster to the south or some location they deem appropriate. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
I had several concerns of drainage, and so you've added extra ponds. You've done what you feel is your due diligence in the drainage issue.
We did, and like I said, when we originally submitted, then your staff came back and told us we need to redesign it to attenuate the critical event of a 100-year storm. Mm-hmm. And again, that's what we've done, and we've demonstrated here graphically that under all conditions of a 100-year storm, there's less water going off the site after we build the ponds than what they are now.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything before we move on to the audience? Anybody else on your team, Darrell?
I think he wants.
I just wanted to mention, in addition to that, Public Works is doing drainage improvements along 393.
Right.
The gentleman that wanted the additional landscaping, his main concern was stormwater, because when we had the big rains, that property to the north that he's representing, it's his mother-in-law's property, flooded both times. Yeah. So the drainage improvements that Public Works has planned should dramatically reduce any of that in the future. I don't know all the specifics, but they're putting 2 really large pipes under 393, and that's going to alleviate a lot of the problems we have in this area.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in the audience? Rick?
Wow. I'm Rick Everett, and I have been sweared and sworn today. I've been counting and trying to keep up mathematically of all the things y'all have talked about tonight, and it is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. It's 600 units, houses, and thousands of roads, and those kinds of things. I can't imagine the types of information that's flowing through your head and all the things to keep up with. And I do apologize for being one of them, but I feel necessary for us to mention some things tonight that I know that you've already talked about because it was evident in just the presentation, but I would like to just share a couple of things. One is, I already mentioned the water control issue, and the second is as a buffer, which is somewhat been discussed maybe as landscaping tonight, but if you don't mind, I'll hand this one picture out. Just pass it around, that we can put it in that evidence. That'll show you our water control issue. It's a little more than just water drains, but that's happened 2 years since I've been there, and it appears that things are being built around that subdivision. I'm actually the president of a homeowners association, and that's why I'm talking about the Edgewood Terrace subdivision. That's the area adjacent to the property, and we're not opposed to this project at all. In fact, we think it's a very good project. that would blend well with us. But what's happening is, at this point, and I know there's plans, but right now there's 20-inch pipes all along that mosquito control area. And I understand that that's a South Walton mosquito control easement, and it's not anything that the county commission deals with. But it actually, the way our surveys are on our lots, it takes 26 feet out of our property boundary and provides that easement. So the entire easement for that mosquito control ditch, we started out as a couple of feet, now it's over 13 feet wide. It's coming out of our 26 feet easement, so it's actually, we lost a lot of our property in that area, and as they maintain that ditch, they keep digging a little closer to our fences and our buildings along that line. So the water control issue, if we can find a way to balance that and not have all that water coming in on us, we greatly will appreciate that, and that will solve that problem. The other area is a buffer, and the reason I mentioned them a control area is that our property surveys shows that the mosquito control easement goes 26 feet south of our fence. What's being shown on the plots, unless I'm mistaken, shows that the boundary and the buffer begins at our fence and goes out. If that's the case, then we're essentially moving the buffer and the landscaping 26 feet closer to our homes. And it's a very narrow space anyway. So I'd like for that to be looked at if you would. And of course, anything that would enable us to be good neighbors, we want to do that. It's a residential unit of 34 people. Over 20 of those units run along that mosquito control area, and it backs up to that. And there's huge opportunities for adult park and walkings and all in that area. It could be really beautiful, and I commend the commission for the projects and what they're doing. I guess our biggest issue is the stormwater and the draining, and then how we keep a buffer. It is a wetland areas, and apparently they're filling in now because they're bringing the dump trucks in and bringing the property up behind us. So we'd appreciate your consideration and support as you've always given us in that area. And I just wanted to point that out to you. And I do have some pictures, additional pictures I'll just put in the file if you'd like to. Thank you for your support and consideration.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to speak?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, rebuttal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through the Planning Commission and through this process, we've attempted to do everything that's been requested of additional buffers, additional plantings. You can see that Mr. Talty's put up there the graphic representation. We've worked with your county public works department on the stormwater. So we've done everything that's requested of us by the staff and by the neighbors. So I don't know what else we can do. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
No, not for me.
Does anyone, and I know I don't see anybody here from Public Works, but does anybody know what place on the drainage, list it is to be taken care of? Does anybody have any idea? I'll check tomorrow and Rick, I'll make sure that, it's being followed up on. So, okay, with that being said.
Motion to approve with conditions of staff.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on our agenda is item number 12. Again, it's item number 12. This is the Emerald Sands subdivision.
Mac, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let's wait for the court reporter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right now. Commissioners, this is item 12 on our agenda, the Emerald Sands subdivision, major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates. Tim Brown reviewed it, and I'll let him introduce the project.
Can I just ask on that last motion, does that include moving the dumpster to the south?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have to amend the final order. This is a major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates requesting the approval of a 7-lot residential subdivision on 1.23 acres with a future land use of neighborhood infill and an Inlet Beach neighborhood plan designation of residential 8 units per acre. It's located on the north side of West Park Place Avenue, approximately 160 feet east of the intersection of South Orange Street and West Park Place Avenue. This previously came before the County Commission as Stephan subdivision and was denied by the board at their meeting on August 11, 2015. You may or may not recall the major issue was the road within the 66-foot government patent easement. They have a proportionate fair share requirement of $11,820. And they're buying out one side of the sidewalk, estimated at $5,250. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. I'll entertain any questions the board may have. Actually, let me back up. Initially, it came in as an 8-unit subdivision, but they had some of their stormwater in the 33-foot government patent easement that's on their side. When Public Works reviewed it, they said, no, we're not going to allow your private stormwater to be in our public easement. So in order to take that out, and they're doing the 100-year storm because it's one of those designated areas. It's a closed basin. This is a closed basin. They had to lose a lot, so now it's a 7-lot subdivision.
Okay, any other questions from Tim? Okay.
Thanks.
Mr. Theriak.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is David Theriak. I represent the applicant. I have asked the clerk to distribute a 3-ring binder. If I could just briefly walk through that and get that evidence into the record. Tab 1 is a copy of the staff report. Tab 2 is an excerpt from the site plans. It's a site geometry and utility plan. We'll also have that on the overhead if there are any questions. Tab 3 is the grading plan, which will also be on the overhead during Dean Burgess's presentation. Tab 4 is an excerpt from the comprehensive plan. It's the Inlet Beach neighborhood plan. Tab 5 is a report from our environmental consultant. Tab 6 is the resume of Dean Burgess, and tab 7 is an email from Shane Odom. And we thought it was very grateful that they have indicated that they are no longer opposing the project, and wish Mr. Stephan the best of luck. I have one witness tonight, which will just be Dean Burgess, and then I would like the ability to have some rebuttal once public comment is done. And I'd like to move into evidence at this juncture our 3-ring binder with exhibits 1 through 7, if that would be appropriate, Madam Chairperson.
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dean?
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. I'm the engineer of record and agent to the applicant for the Emerald Sands subdivision. Yes, sir?
Will you please state your address?
My address is 1176 Don Bishop Road, Santa Rosa Beach, Florida.
And what is your profession?
I'm a civil engineer.
Could you briefly describe your educational background?
I have a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. I became licensed in civil engineering in 1997 and have been practicing as a civil engineer ever since.
And the exhibit that is in the binder, which you emailed to me, let me show it to you, tab 6. Is that a true and correct copy of the resume?
It is.
Boy, am I relieved.
Just want to make sure all the pages were there.
At this point, I'd like to tender Mr. Burgess as an expert witness in site design and civil engineering.
We accept.
Thank you. Dean, why are you testifying today?
As the site designer and civil engineer for the project, I'm here to testify that the project does meet the comprehensive plan and land development code.
All right, will you please describe the Emerald Sand subdivision?
Will do. Staff did a good job of introducing the project. I'm sure most of y'all, if not all, remember the history of it. Came in as Stephan subdivision. We did have access from both the northern and southern easements. It was requested that actually the project was denied due to the fact that we didn't provide our access entirely from the south. There were some complications with that northern easement as it's currently being used for some private development, and the owners were opposed to negotiating that access. So what we have done, if I could ask that we pull our site and utility plan up. Yes, sir. As you can see, the access does come from the southern easement into the property, and does not connect to the northern public easement at all. It is in a closed basin. We have designed for the 100-year storm as a result of the project being located within a closed basin. Off-site runoff occurs from the Inlet Dunes condominium to our west. To the northwest, there's some undeveloped land owned by the Kidd family, which gently slopes toward this depressional area, and a portion of the property to the northeast slopes toward this area. We did a relatively in-depth analysis of all of those off-site drainages as well as our proposed development, and have determined and demonstrated that the project does not discharge any more water off-site. As a matter of fact, we don't have any discharge off-site from our project, as well as the stage on the adjacent properties does not exceed the stage or elevation that the water reached in the pre-development condition. The project proposes a density of 5.69 units per acre on 1.23 acres. It is in the land use category of infill, which you may be wondering why a 7-lot subdivision is coming before the board. All projects within infill are major and required to come before the board. It's entirely within a flood zone X. We meet all the parking requirements for the project, as well as the land development code, landscaping code requirements. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have at this time.
Do y'all have any questions?
Just a quick informational. Between lots 2 and 3, and 2, 3, and 4, is it a water retention area?
Drainage easement,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let's see. Yes, that is a retention area.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions,
Thank you.
comments from the audience? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
My name is Anna Hamer, Hamer. I would like to request to just ask some questions without being interrupted by the attorney here. Our house is right next door, and I'm very concerned about the amount of water that is on this property, so I have some questions. When I questioned staff and when I questioned the environmental department of staff, no one had ever been out and seen, and the engineer of record, they haven't seen the amount of water that is on this property. So I have a question. Did you?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. If you could just direct your comments to the board.
Okay.
And then the applicant can address the questions later.
So my question is, has anyone from staff, has anyone from the environmental department, has Dean Burgess seen the amount of water that is on this property on a regular rainfall day?
We'll let them address that after
All
we
right.
have asked all
Because
of the
I already know
questions.
the answer to that question, but I'm asking it just as a point. The point is, when I approached staff, when there was actual standing water on the property, I approached staff and I approached the environmental, it's actually Kristen Shell, to come out and please see it. Just see it. They refused. They said they've already done their study. Their environmental study was done in December, when there's the lowest amount of rainfall that we have is in December. So in a normal rainfall day, like for April, and if you look in, hopefully in your packet, you will see an aerial photography, an aerial shot that was done after just a regular day of rain. And there's a huge amount of water on the property. So I'm just concerned that the retention ponds and the area that they have is over 10,000 square feet of retention pond on this one piece of property. I'm just wondering if that's going to be enough. They say it should be enough, staff says it should be enough, but if they've not witnessed the amount of water that's there on a regular day of rain, how could they know what the 100-year storm is going to be? Just a regular day of rain, it is a huge amount of water, and I'm not the only one that's seen it. I do have a question about the 5-foot encroachment that is on the landscape barrier at the back of the property. Why are they allowed to do that? First, when this was in front of the planning department, it was only a 3-foot encroachment. Now it's a 5-foot encroachment, so that's a question. Do they need a stormwater permit? In the planning commission meeting, Mr. Burgess stood up and said they do not need a stormwater permit. I thought that all subdivisions needed to have a stormwater permit. He says he doesn't need one. He also said at the planning commission meeting that he was allowed to shed water. That it wasn't illegal, that's the wording that he used, that it wasn't illegal for him to shed water onto other people's property. So I'm a little concerned since we're right next door. Is the road that is in the middle of the property, which is a different overlay, is it to be maintained by the county? Are the storm drain covers to be maintained by the county? Is that road to be maintained by the county? How wide is that road? Is it wide enough for 2 cars to pass? Is it wide enough for, if there's someone parked there, for another car to pass? Is there enough room for someone to turn around if they go in there accidentally? How are they going to get out? Are they going to be backing out onto our street? Or is there a place for them to turn around? Is the other overlay there that we could look at that has the site plan? To look at that, possibly we can answer that question. It doesn't look like there's a turnaround. It doesn't look to me like there's a turnaround. Okay, let's see, what else? Those are a few questions that I have. And I'm just mostly concerned about the amount of water that's on the property that no one from staff or no one from planning has seen. And if it is, and as everyone seems to believe, that it's a public easement at the back of the property, why is there no extra setback? Now, Mr. Burgess stood up and said at planning because we don't know what's going to happen with that easement. We don't know if the county's ever going to use it. We don't know if anyone's going to ever, we can't possibly know what's going to happen in the future, that he doesn't think that he needs to have a setback off of that easement. So those are my questions, and I really thank you for letting me ask them. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Where do you live in relationship to this?
I live to the east.
Next door?
Right next door.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is David Theriak. I represent the applicant. Is your house for sale?
How is that relevant?
Is your house for sale, ma'am?
How is that relevant?
Please answer the question.
How is it relevant?
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
will you please instruct the witness to answer the question?
And please answer the question.
It's been for sale off and on for a few years.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Okay. Oh, one more, Miss Betty.
I'm not representing the neighborhood association right now, and I guess it is good they brought it down to 7 because it's been ongoing so long. My thing is, and just recently in the past year, and it was on Wall Street in Walton Rose, another development came in, and because I know we have some 3 stories and 4 stories, but there is some that are, when you sell a lot now, it could be put on the plat that not go over 20 feet or 2 stories. That would be really, really nice instead of having, all these straight up and downs and small lots. So that's all I wanted to say, if you would consider that.
Thank you. And I believe there was another hand out in the audience right here. Yes, sir. Come up, please.
Betty Letcher.
Betty Letcher.
Sorry, and sir, just make sure you state your name for the record, please.
My name is Terry DeVoe. It's DeVeau. My wife and I are building our...
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but were you sworn in earlier?
I was not.
Okay, could you raise your right hand?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
In any event, my wife and I are building our retirement home on Wild Dunes Way in Inlet Beach, and we intend to become permanent residents there. And we've gotten to know the applicant, and I just want to say, we really think they're great people. We think they'd be a great addition to the Inlet Beach neighborhood. We look forward to having them move in. But maybe a little more importantly, from a development perspective, I kind of see it as they're like developers with a heart. They want to be there. It's not just to max it out, put the most possible number of lots there. It's a little looser of a type of development for what they could do. We've actually stayed in the condo project right next door last year for about a week and a half, and we just don't see, or we really see that their project and the scope, obviously not being as dense as the condos, but being pretty comparable to the area, if not a little bit less in development to the degree things are going. The other thing, and that's somewhat important to me and my wife, is that we've been to the applicant's home and we've seen the design style that they've exercised in the building of their own place, and we really, really think they have great taste, and we really think they will be bringing that with them to any development that they do on this site, and we think they'll create great houses. So we hope you approve their development. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The gentleman in the green shirt.
Yes, my name is Greg Taws, T-A-W-E-S, and I was sworn in earlier.
You have been sworn, okay.
Yes. And I'm here to speak in support of the Emerald Sands development. I think it would be a great addition to the Inlet Beach area. I've been a resident of South Walton County for 9 years, so I'm familiar with the area, and I'm also very familiar with the applicants and would like to speak on behalf of their character and their credibility. What they say they're going to do in terms of development, they will do, and it will be an excellent development, and I think you should approve it for the Inlet Beach area.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the striped shirt?
Danny Hornsby, and I have not been sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'd just like to state that if it does go through, to limit the height restrictions to the 20 feet, keep it as the surrounding area, to keep everything looking the same.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Okay, back here in the back. Let everybody speak, and then I'll let you have just a few more minutes.
My name's Tab Jackson, and I have not been sworn in.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide to this board will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've been a resident here in South Walton for 18 years and have been fortunate enough to know Joey and Mala for the last several years. They are very good people and would be an asset to this community. They want to not only do this development, they want to build their personal home there. They're not just doing this as a development, and they want to build their personal dream home there. And I think that they would be a big asset to this community, and they've done everything within the zoning. It should be an easy decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Hammer? Just make it brief, please.
I just had one more.
Okay.
Thank you. I just had one more question. Also in the planning, they were talking about making it 9 units. Even though they were asking for 7, they said that they would be allowed to build 9, and that would be decided when it got platted. So I just want to make sure it's going to be 7 and not 9, because that seemed like a little kind of reach around.
Okay. Would y'all like to have a rebuttal, and would you
Yes,
address the questions, Dean?
Dean Burgess will address each of those questions, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very briefly, I'll go through the comments that were made by Ms. Hamer. As far as the stormwater comment, I think I've already spoken about that. I have been to the site at least 4 or 5 times, and I have gone after rain events. So the implication or to give the board the impression I've never been out there, I don't know where she gets that. It's simply not true. I have been out there, as a matter of fact. My first instruction to our environmental consultant when he did his first environmental site visit on the property was take a look at the low area, and I need to know if that's wet or not. His response to me was, it absolutely is not. It doesn't have any of the big 3, as he calls it. Jeremy Reiser from E-Tech Environmental has been around the area for quite some time. It doesn't have the hydric soils that define wetlands. It doesn't have the wetland plants that characterize and define a wetland. And it doesn't have the high enough water table to define that is required to define a wetland. It doesn't have any of those 3 characteristics. Our geotechnical engineer confirmed the same. It's clean white sands. There is no muck layer or organic soil that otherwise would indicate a wetland either. I've spoken to the Northwest Florida Water Management District. Dana Palermo with the Water Management District called me in response to a call that she received from Ms. Hamer. She also agreed it's not a wetland out there. Her personnel went out there and took a look at it. She also agreed that it is exempt through what's called a 10-2 exemption for stormwater permit. What that means is projects that are less than 10 acres in size and 2 acres in impervious area are exempt from Northwest Florida Water Management District ERP permits. I did state to the Planning Commission that we will seek a self-certification, which is something that the Water Management District offers to engineers, and we will do that prior to construction, just to put the Management District on notice that we will be constructing a stormwater facility. With regard to the landscape encroachment, that was part that is allowed under the code. It's a 40% encroachment into the landscape area for our stormwater system. We wrote a letter to the director requesting permission to do that, and it was obliged by the planning director. As far as shedding water on our neighbor, I think the board's familiar. You can, but only at a rate that's equal to what was shed on the neighbor in the pre-development condition. And as I stated, our system, stormwater system, will not be discharged, does not discharge during the 100-year storm event. Our roads will be private. She asked if they'll be maintained by the county, and no, they will be private, as will our stormwater system within the property. With regards to the 9 units, what we were stating is that the property allows, through density provisions, up to 9 units. We were just simply clarifying to the Planning Commission that we don't intend to maximize out the density. We will be building 7 units. You cannot change that during the platting process without coming back before this board. Regarding the setbacks are applicable from the lot lines that are established with this property. Of course, the property has an easement within it, and I didn't say that the road won't be used, so we don't have to have a setback. I said exactly what the code says. The setback is applicable from the lot line. I believe that covers all the comments. The height comment that came up with regard to 20 feet, there is not a height restriction at 20 feet. The condominiums, inlet dunes immediately adjacent to us are obviously taller than that.
Dean, there are 2 other questions. How wide is the private road in the subdivision?
The road is 18 feet wide as far as the pavement surface.
And will 2 cars be able to pass each other?
They will be able to pass each other, yes, sir.
And what happens if somebody turns into that neighborhood and decides they don't want to be in there? Is there a way for them to turn around and get out?
There is a T-turnaround at the very northern end that the South Walton Fire District has reviewed, and we've run an auto turn analysis on, and meets the code requirements for a T-turnaround.
And just to make sure it's clear on the record, you are meeting the 100-year storm event?
That is correct.
Thank you. No other questions?
What's the pleasure?
Motion to approve with staff conditions.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. And we have 2 more. We're going to make it on the Henshaw. Here's the line. Here's the one with the description. Description is going to be continued. Oh, wow, the entire set.
Madam Chairman, the next item on our agenda is number 14. This is the Henshaw subdivision. This development was also reviewed by Tim Brown. I'll ask him to introduce it after I request that the staff report be entered into evidence.
Go ahead, Tim.
This is a major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates requesting the approval to develop 4 residential lots consisting of 1.51 acres with the future land use of neighborhood infill. It's located on the south side of County Road 38, immediately south of Woodward Drive. They have a proportionate fair share requirement of $3,800. There's some additional staff conditions concerning turtle lighting, wildlife conservation zone, permitting. It is also in the Choctawhatchee beach mouse habitat, so they'll have to meet those requirements. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with Walton County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Any questions of Tim?
Tim, is there going to be any structures south of the CCCL?
The applicant would have to add, off the top of my head, I don't know. I know DEP does allow structures south as long as they are in line with their neighbors, the adjacent properties, but we do not allow anything south of the coastal protection zone. county doesn't allow anything south of that line.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that.
I'll save my question for Dean when he gets up here.
Okay,
Dean?
thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Again, Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates, the engineer of record and agent to the applicant for the Henshaw subdivision. Last name is Burgis, and I have been sworn. Tim did a good job of introducing the project. I'll jump right into Mr. Chapman's question. The structures will have to be seaward of the CCCL to some extent. They obviously cannot extend into the CPZ, which we have defined on our plan, and confirm that there's sufficient square footage to build a home on the properties. Those permits will be obtained individually for the various home styles and types that are built on the lots. So each of the lot owners will be made aware that they need to receive a CCCL permit. They just can't go get a building permit. Again, this is one of those subdivisions. It's only a little 4-lot subdivision. It's in the infill category, so that is why we're before this board requesting approval. Our density for the project works out to 2.65 units per acre, which is considerably lower than the 2 condominiums that border it, and Stinky's Fish Camp across the street from it. I joked with our compatibility consultant that we're not intense enough. If there were any other questions that the board had, though, I think it's a pretty straightforward little subdivision.
My standard question, stormwater.
Stormwater?
Yes, sir.
Well, fortunately, of course, we're in good beach sands. Stormwater is handled not through exfiltration as we often see on the beach, but open retention ponds, easily maintained by a small association such as this.
Any other questions?
You're not in the coastal dune lake protection zone, are you?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
I don't have any. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the audience? Seeing none?
Motion to approve with staff conditions.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. Okay, next project.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is item number 15, and this is the last item on our agenda tonight. The Emerald Coast Business Center, lot number 10. We request the staff report be entered into evidence, and I'll introduce Tim Brown to introduce the project.
You're earning your money tonight.
This is a major development order application submitted by Interlight Engineering requesting approval to construct 3,784 square feet of office and 608 square feet of storage for a total of 4,392 square feet on 0.34 acres with a future land use of neighborhood infill, so that's why it's a major. On the east, it's located on the east side of Business Center Drive, approximately 0.25 miles south of US Highway 98. There's currently 2 vacant lots in this center. This is one, so once this is developed, we'll have 1 vacant lot left in this business center. They have a proportionate fair share requirement of $36,840. There are no additional staff conditions other than the proportionate fair share. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Commissioner Info, you have any? Commissioner Meadows?
No, I don't have any.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to come forward?
Just for the record, David Smith with Interline Engineering, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, what's the
Motion
pleasure?
to approve with conditions.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Passed unanimous. We have 25 minutes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.